right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We've never had this big a turnout of community members at our board meeting. Are you here to talk to us or to see the county? Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
We appreciate all your love.
Could we have a motion to adopt the agenda with a couple of amendments, since everybody's here to hear, I think, mostly the Southeast Connector?
Do we need to table the learning resource?
Martha's going to have to do that. So if we could have a motion to... Can you use your microphone? I'm using it. Hello?
Mine is.
Okay, so I have a motion to adopt the agenda with the changes of moving the Southeast Connector discussion to below the public comments.
So moved.
What do you want to do with the consent agenda?
And also, let's pull off the consent agenda minutes.
I have 4 of them.
Okay, which ones?
Work session, August 22.
22.
Regular meeting, August 22. Special meeting, September 7. Regular meeting, September 26.
Okay, we'll move those 4 minutes to the off the consent agenda. Martha, which minutes did you want to remove?
I think it's the last one.
October 12th? Okay, and we'll move that one off the consent agenda also. So we have that. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, I think we have some public comments. Trish? So we have a 3-minute limit on our public comments, and we appreciate anyone who wants to make them. The board will not respond to those because it's not an agenda item, so we really can't talk about them, but they're things that we can take into consideration at future meetings.
All right, first up we have Tom O'Brien.
Thank you.
Okay.
Make a difference? Okay. Well, thank you very much. My name's Tom O'Brien.
You want to put the microphone?
Oh, yes. This better?
Yes.
Oh, well, I did it again. All right. My name is Tom O'Brien. I'm a community college district taxpayer and a gym mate of Jack. I'm also a resident of Rancho Viejo for over 13 years. The focus this evening, my comments, is on the Southeast Connector and the Community College District, public safety and traffic flows. As background, many Community College District taxpayers participate in a series of town hall meetings on the Southeast Connector issue over the past 3 years. The county's Mark Hogan organized many of these meetings. Now, discussions at these meetings now serve as a basis for our taxpayer beliefs, proposals, concerns, and expectations. Now, before moving on, I'd like a show of hands from the board and from members of the audience. How many actually participated in these public town hall meetings that took place over the last 3 years?
Well, the board is not going to respond. I know that some of us have attended meetings.
We can't say that.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
First of all, our beliefs. We believe that public and traffic safety should be key consideration in the design of the Southeast Connector and its interfaces. We believe that a traffic calming construct should be included in a long stretch of the Southeast Connector as a means for managing traffic flows safely on a public road. We believe that over time, the current stopgap second entrance to the community college on College Drive will become less functional and less safe over time. Lastly, we believe that a direct and safe, real second entrance to the community college from the Southeast Connector will be needed sooner versus later. Concerning our proposals, we propose that Santa Fe County put an inlet along the Southeast Connector in order to provide a future location for a construct that would provide for improved public safety and traffic calming. For example, very similar to the construct at the west end of Governor Miles Boulevard. We also propose that this inlet be placed on the Southeast Connector at a location approximately due east of the main entrance to the college campus. Well, what are our concerns? We as taxpayers and key stakeholders as taxpayers are disappointed with the less than inclusive decision-making process used by the county and the school to say no to this taxpayer-proposed inlet proposal, but also to say yes to a College Drive inlet proposal favored by a local developer and the college. We are even more disappointed with the community college for their lack of openness and transparency throughout the process. In summary, the county needs to recognize public safety takes precedent over any future community college campus expansion plans that still would require considerable taxpayer resources. And also our inlet proposal will not represent an impediment to future campus plans. Our expectation, we would like the county, we want the county, first of all, to agree to place an inlet on the Southeast Connector in the general area we suggested and communicate this agreement to both Commissioner Marino and the CCD taxpayers within 30 days. Commissioner Marino, would that be acceptable to you?
I would have to consult with my other commissioners.
That'd be fair. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Trish?
Richard?
Thanks, and good evening, folks. My name's Randy Crutcher, and I'm a property owner and resident at College Heights here adjacent to campus in Rancho Viejo. And I've participated in the mentioned county-organized Southeast Connector neighborhood and public meetings over the course of the years. My comments here are focused on neighborhood safety and other impacts related to road interconnectivity in this community college district, and on the hope for better management of school-related traffic flow on Richards Avenue and county crossroads, such as College Drive, now and into the future. So, before the current roundabouts on Richards Avenue, many of you here recall the nightmare it was in gaining safe and timely access to the campus and adjacent neighborhoods. And there was only one entrance to the school. Then came the snowstorm safety fiasco. And the safety issue was partially addressed by creating a small secondary entrance and exit on the north side of the campus off College Drive. As an adequate safety strategy, this response, this entry point has already been problematic. Several of our neighbors continue to have near collisions with exiting school traffic, encountering drivers who seem oblivious of the traffic, through traffic in and out of our neighborhood. And though a College Drive extension to the Southeast Connector may satisfy county interconnectivity goals, it would also increase two-way school, commercial, residential, church, emergency, bicycle, and pedestrian traffic. And this extension would pose increased safety issues for both the college and adjacent neighborhoods. Can the county assure us that our neighborhood will not have a repeat performance of the Oshara community experience it will finally be addressing after many years of crossroad traffic impact there. The primary rationale for the Southeast Connector, as I understand, is to reduce school-related traffic flows on Richards Avenue and County Crossroads and to move school-related traffic rapidly, safely, and directly onto campus. Safety issues loom large as the community college considers campus expansions and more residential communities and commercial endeavors in the neighborhood here. A direct connection between the Southeast Connector and the east side of the campus would go a long way in addressing these future safety and impact issues. And having that safe access in place before more crossroad construction would better ensure college traffic is directed quickly and safely to the campus's main parking areas, right out here. So, in closing, we urge the county and the college to acknowledge that increased traffic flow on College Drive would render the currently small entry to the north side of the campus obsolete for the purposes of a secondary main entrance. And we ask that the county require the placement of several speed tables for traffic calming, should there be ever an extension of College Drive. And we ask the county to locate an inlet, as has already been requested, on the Southeast Connector approximately due east of the main campus entrance on Richards to both calm traffic and to prepare for a potential real second main entrance to the community college to manage future traffic and area development impacts. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Next, we have Lance Tunick.
Good evening. Inauspicious. Okay. Good evening. My name is Lance Tunick. I live on Dean's Court, right here next to College Drive, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Different subject. Last month, I heard through informal neighborhood channels that the college had reached an agreement of sorts with the developer Rancho Viejo LLC, whereby the college would put up 1/2 of the funds, and that would be $1 million of $2 million, half, for the construction of a College Avenue extension to the new Southeast Connector. And I was also informed that the source of these college funds would be the bond money that had been recently approved earlier this year. I don't know if that's true. I just don't know. That's why we're here. Well, it's not funny.
It's not, okay.
It really isn't, because we got to know. And that's why I'm sitting here. I'm not saying I know this is true. I'm asking you, is it true? And one of the reasons we don't know is because I think communication has been less than ideal. Now, I'm hoping it's not true. But I'm sitting here and I have a couple of minutes, so let me say, what if it is true? Well, I think there might be a legal issue there as far as the college spending money for anything that wasn't on campus within the campus. Particularly, perhaps an issue if you, the college, get somehow involved with a developer in that sort of arrangement. The nature of the bond money was held out to the public as clearly being for educational and college infrastructure. I voted for it, okay? I mean, I'm your neighbor. I support you, okay? But we got to have, you know, a two-way street. So the bottom line is, I hope the rumor that we heard, I'm not the only one. I mean, that's why you have a lot of people here. It's not true. If it were, we'd oppose it. If it's not true, then maybe we could all pull together to come up with a really good plan that works for everyone. I think it's doable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eileen Gorman?
I'm Eileen Gorman. I'm a student as well as a taxpayer and a member of the community. And I'm here to address transparency and openness. From the perspective, our perspective as both students, neighborhood, community college district communities, there's a general lack of openness and transparency in dealing with important issues that impact all of us. Taxpayers believe that openness will help to prevent some of the animosity that can occur when one important party is ignored, and we're feeling ignored. Interaction is an opportunity for the college to actively engage with the CCD communities in many areas of common interest, as well as to use that interaction as a gauge of the pulse of the taxpayers on certain issues. In an ideal setting, one could view the relationship among the college, the county, and the CCD taxpayers as a Venn diagram. Here, there would always be spaces that are unique to each party. That's the definition of a Venn diagram. But the real opportunities for common ground would be at the intersections. Unfortunately, the various parties don't seem necessarily to play nice in these interactions and may not even recognize that some of these other parties exist. Another point to keep in mind is that at least 18% of our property taxes go to this college. We believe that the challenge for you, President Cervantes, is to change the dynamics and the culture of college leadership in order that the college becomes, first, more open and transparent in its dealings with the issues of importance to the community college district communities. Secondly, more attuned to the fact that these communities are a major source of funding as taxpayers, students, donors, and community members. And finally, that the college is more integrated into the fabric of the overall community, CCD community. We're all here together. We need to act like it. Ignoring the CCD community should not be an option. The community has proven that it can effectively mount grassroots efforts to make a difference. Let's all avoid another experience like the Flying J experience. Thank you.
David Rosen?
Good evening. What I have to say is not laced with controversy. My name is David Rosen. I am an emergency medicine physician at Christus St. Vincent Medical Center here in Santa Fe. I was formerly the medical director of the emergency department there. I served as the medical director for the Santa Fe County Fire Department for many years and was the medical director at Care Flight 5, the aeromedical service. I've been intimately involved with the EMS community and the Emergency Medicine Services Institute here for nearly a decade. The Health Sciences Campus is really a remarkable facility and a remarkable resource for our community. I have seen firsthand the value that our EMS training program serves in our community to save lives and to provide essential medical services to people living in northern New Mexico. Each year, the EMSI enables scores of young people to pursue a career as EMTs and medics. For many, this is the culmination of a dream, to become a healthcare provider and become part of something larger than themselves. In the past 2 years, however, I have seen the shrinking of the program from 4 faculty positions down to 1 full-time position. At the same time, the number of students has nearly doubled. We're currently operating with 1 full-time faculty member and a hodgepodge of adjunct faculty, many of whom are second to us from the Santa Fe City Fire Department. The program hangs in a very precarious balance. If one of our adjunct faculty was to drop out, or if the current support from the Santa Fe City Fire Department was to falter, the program would likely fail. It's ironic that the program should be endangered just when it has recently sailed through a very rigorous and exhaustive national accreditation process. This board needs to recognize the importance and value that the EMSI program serves in our community. This board needs to ensure that staffing budgets and teacher salaries are sufficient to recruit and retain talented faculty to teach our students. Pay scale for our teaching faculty need to be competitive with the field. Unless the EMSI gets the approval from this board to add staff at a competitive pay scale, the sustainability of this essential program is in serious jeopardy. In an emergency, the medics that show up at your doors are your lifelines in the community. Please, I implore you to give them the support they deserve. All of our lives depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marlon Mackey.
Good evening. My name is Marlon Mackey, and I'm the president of the Santiago Road Users Association, which is right off Rabbit Road. And I'm here to really talk on behalf of our community about the impact that these roads, and as we're talking about the Southeast Connector, and we're talking about Richards, and we're talking about Rabbit Road, what does that mean really to the people who live on Rabbit Road, plus or minus good or bad? And we've attended maybe 10 or 12 meetings over the last 3 years as we've moved forward on some of these extensions. There's really 3 groups of things, I think, that are happening at the same time. One of them is the Ashara Village increase. They're planning to increase 650 units, and that's just north of where you guys are here. Also, the apartments that were by the community college here is 150 or whatever those. So we've got 600 or 700 units. 1,000 vehicles or more are going to be included here in not too distant future. Whenever you come down, let's give an example, whenever you come down Richards Avenue, coming south, once you pass the freeway and you come to the turnoff here to the college, there are only 8 turn-in, turn-out roads. It's 2 miles, that distance is 2 miles, there's 8 turn-in, turn-out roads. 2 have traffic lights, 2 have roundabouts, and 4 roads that just come in and out. In comparison to where we live on Rabbit Road, if you just take the 1.2 miles rather than the 2 miles, from where we turn off at Santiago back to St. Francis, there are 27 turnouts. So the distance is about half, and the number of turnouts where people are coming in and off of their property goes from 8 to 27, and there's 2 more being built as we speak, so there's 29. There's 300 or 400 houses that come in and off Rabbit Road on the existing Rabbit Road right when you turn off Ashara. The problem that we see, we've been talking with the county and the state of people about, is whenever you put the extenders in, you move Rabbit Road all the way from where it turns off to Ashara all the way to Richards, that's going to push traffic to Rabbit Road, because they want to get on the freeway. People are going to get on I-25, and the quickest way is going to be down through Rabbit Road. Unfortunately, Rabbit Road is only two lanes wide, and there are homes and properties that's going to prevent you from moving it to 3 or 4 wide. You're going to have to condemn people's houses, garages, property, and take it down in order to do that. I'll give you one example. Right where Santiago, where we're at, our house is, when we come into the Rabbit Road, we have 27 houses on our property, and there's about 10 right when you get to the road. There's about 30 houses coming on to Rabbit Road from our unit. Right there where we hit Rabbit Road is the smallest area between the homeowners and the freeway. And if you go where the fence is right there by the freeway, which is pretty close to the freeway, to where our robot is, it's 67 feet. The turnabouts that we have here at the college and at O'Shara, those turnarounds are 90 feet across. So you can't put that size of turnabout over on Rabbit Road. So the issue we have is all the traffic pushing on to Rabbit Road. And there was some traffic studies that were done. The county had some traffic studies done, some safety studies done, et cetera. But when you talk about 300 or 400 or 500% more traffic on there, on a 2-lane road, that's going to create a havoc for those people coming in and off their homes. Again, it's not flat, it's up and down.
Pardon me.
People are coming down, people are going up to get into the thing. So we had hoped that both the county, the state, and the community college consider the roads that are going through there and which way they're going to go and what they should be trying to do, and not try to put all the traffic onto the people who live on Rabbit Road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Pat Perils. I think it's Perils. Is that? Thank you.
Good evening. I am your student as well as your neighbor, and I love the community college, and I spend a lot of time here, and I have been a major donor as well. So I wish that the college would send representatives to these meetings. So far, we haven't really seen or heard from you, and we've attended. I must have attended close to 30 or 40 meetings in the last 11 years, because this has been a long time in planning and with lots of controversy, and we finally were very happy that the county seemed to buy the idea of running, my little map here that you have is the map, running the traffic from Rabbit Road down to a back entrance at the college and around onto Avenida del Sur. And that takes, Rancho Viejo can then use that back route to go and do its business in town quickly. And it leaves College Drive a quiet little back street, which it is, you know. So we're very happy with that concept, and we know College Drive will eventually be built through. But the traffic, the noise, you promised us a long time ago that you wouldn't run your buses and you wouldn't run your trucks down College Drive, and you do, you know, and so the motorcycles and all those kinds of things keep us awake and destroy our peace and quiet. Sundays are marvelous because we can get out and not hear a single sound. So we hope that you will take these thoughts into consideration and work well with the community in the future. Thank you very much.
Michael Dennis.
That's all? Okay. Thank you all very much for being here. I do feel like we have to let you know about what that rumor is. All of you are taxpayers. We're all taxpayers. I think we were all incredulous about that rumor because, of course, by our bond issue, we have to spend the money only on what you saw that we were going to spend the money on. An automotive center, repairs, roof replacements, all those kinds of things. And there's no roads or highways or anything related to that bond issue. It's what you, the taxpayers, we, the taxpayers, approved. We actually invited the county here tonight to tell us what they're doing with the Southeast Connector, because, and we're very grateful to Commissioner Moreno and staff for coming, and I hope they're going to give us all an update about what the plan is. We first started discussing this, I don't know, 8 to 10 years ago, before everyone was on this board except me, and we have had numerous meetings with everyone, especially in the early years. So we're all anxious to hear what the county has to say about the Southeast Connector. So thank you, county members, for coming, and please come up and give us an update.
Good evening, board members and guests. We from the county are here to provide an update on the projects and talk about somewhat the complicated history that accompanied it. But today, this is a good night because we have finally got to a point where we can start working in earnest and planning for the future. Needless to say, I'm proud to be serving in District 5 as a commissioner. When these improvements will be underway. The Northeast and Southeast connectors will serve traffic needs here, and the community college, Santa Maria La Paz, the surrounding schools, and another college also. And this is an exciting and much needed set of projects. Bottlenecks, and it'll help with smoothing out the commute for staff and residents and students, of course. We have, I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to defer to the senior county person in a moment. We have a really good team of professionals who have been working and planning, and we have a power presentation.
Good evening. I'm Robert Martinez, the Deputy Public Works Director. I've been with the county for 23 years, and I think Commissioner Moreno refers to me as a senior member because I'm the oldest one in the bunch. But yeah, Commissioner Moreno is correct. This and same with the comments from the Community College Board. This project has been in the works for 8 to 10 years. We have met with the community college on several occasions. We met with the public on quite a few occasions, as well as you heard from members from the public. The county had an engineering firm by the name of OCAM do an alignment study that studied possible alignments. They also conducted the environmental phase of this process, and certain alignments were explored, and the most advantageous alignment was determined through numerous meetings and environmental issues, and that kind of effort. So tonight, what we have for you is a PowerPoint presentation by Diego Gomez. He is our Santa Fe County projects engineer. So if I could take a few minutes to introduce the people that we have here. Commissioner Moreno, Diego Gomez, who's our Public Works engineer. We have Justin Reese, who is our Project Manager 3, that will be managing this project along with Diego, and Julia Valdez, who is Commissioner Moreno's liaison. We also have County Manager Catherine Miller, who I believe is supposed to attend, and possibly Deputy County Manager Tony Flores. But we will go ahead and move on to this PowerPoint presentation. We will be going to design here probably starting in December. We're about ready to let this project out to design. So we have nothing is designed as of yet. We have conceptual designs which give us the alignment, but nothing is designed at this time. We have met with the 4 property owners that are affected by this particular road, both of them, the northeast and southeast connector. I believe it was around May or June, so we have been in constant contact with them. So they are up to speed on where we're at with the county. Last time we met with them, though, I think we were going to be going out to RFP for the design. By now, we're a couple months behind that schedule that we gave them back in May, but we are hoping to get the Board of County Commissioners to award this design contract by the end of November, early December. So with that, I'll turn it over to Diego Gomez for the PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening. So we, Santa Fe County, hired OCAM. Now they changed their name to Stantec to do an alignment and corridor study about almost 5 years ago. It was done in accordance with all NMDOT and federal highway requirements. And what it does was it looked at a couple of different things. There's basically 4 phases of the study. We have completed 3. So when Robert was talking about we're going into design, hopefully we have a consultant under contract here pretty soon. That will be phase D. So what we have completed is we completed phase A, the alternative identification and screening. We've completed phase B, the detailed alternative and analysis, and phase C, the environmental documentation. So what is phase A? Phase A, there's 5 aspects of phase A. So we, in our study, looked at existing conditions and constraints. We looked at agency coordination and public input. We'd had several public meetings. I think a couple of them were here. We established the purpose and need for both the northeast and the southeast connector, and we did a development of study alternative. We did some initial screenings of alternatives. That completes phase A. So these were the alternatives addressed in phase A. And so you can see that there was a bunch of different routes over there. Let's see if I can use this. This is what we call the northeast connector, running east and west along the frontage road and along I-25 along Rabbit Road. These were the northeast connector alternatives. Here were the southeast connector alternatives. So we did a very extensive analysis. So what phase B is it looks at these alternatives, and it has 3 phases. The first step is a detailed evaluation of the alternatives. The engineering refinement and preferred alternative is the second step. And then the third step is to look at the alternative analysis report. So we did that.
Can you go back to the first, but the one, right. So where is the community college property?
Right here.
So the roads that you have as alternates, is that white one, the one that goes through the college property?
That is an alternative. That was not the chosen alternative, but that was one that was looked at.
Is that the only one that went through the property?
There was a couple other ones. If you look at those ones right there, they did also go through the college property.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So these were the preferred alternatives for the northeast connector. So the preferred alternative, there is Richards Avenue right there. That's I-25. And this is like the O'Shara's property where you turn into O'Shara down there. That was the preferred, or that was one of the alternatives for the Northeast Connector. The other was to not do anything. That's what we called the no build. So there was two chosen alternatives on the Northeast Connector. On the Southeast Connector, what we had is the P&M alignment. And what that runs is that runs along the P&M easement and down along the spur trail, which this is Avenida del Sur right here. And then what we had, another alternative, the Santa Fe Community College District alternative, that's this blue line here that runs down, and then same thing, it runs along the spur trail. So those were basically the two alternatives that were chosen to be looked at more extensively. The Northeast Connector, and then the two ones at the P&M alignment and the Santa Fe Community College District. So those were the recommendations. This was done by the engineering firm with the help of county staff. They were evaluated in accordance with NMDOT and federal highway requirements, and they were selected. So this is what it looks like right now. These were the two alternatives. So the Northeast Connector is shown in this red line. The Southeast Connector is shown in this green line. So this is not under design yet. This is just the alignment study. So we have cleared about 120 feet in that area, cleared about 500 feet in this area, and 120 feet. So the road can meander anywhere within that 120 to 500 foot width. So Phase C is the environmental clearance, which meant that they went out there and they looked for migratory birds, cultural resources, endangered species, vegetation. It was cleared in accordance with NMDOT and federal highway regulations. So that's what we're talking about right now is Phase C, environmental documentation. So that consists of 4 steps. The first one is to prepare a resource report and agency consultation. Prepare an environmental documentation is the second step. The final environmental certification, and then the environmental reevaluation. So this whole study was not only approved by the NMDOT, it was approved by the FHWA too. So we did it all in accordance with the requirements. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier about where we cleared. There is some cultural resources in this area, so we had to clear it a little bit wider. The road is probably going to have to meander in there a little bit, but that is what we cleared. And so we have been environmentally cleared to build this road, these 2 roads within this alignment somehow. So what does that look like? Right now, the location study identified a recommended typical section. And so if you look at this, the recommended typical section for the Northeast Connector is a 6-foot shoulder, 2 11-foot driving lanes, another 6-foot shoulder, a little bit of a buffer area, and a 5-foot multimodal trail. That is the recommended typical section. Now, that is not the design. We're not in design yet, but this is what the location study recommended. The Southeast Connector is very similar. The difference is the Southeast Connector is showing a trail on both sides. So that is what is recommended through our location study to provide safe passage through these areas.
When you say a trail, what do you mean?
A multimodal trail, depending on the funding and the cost. It could be a paved trail, it could just be a dirt trail, but it's going to be a multimodal trail so pedestrians, equestrians, bicyclists can utilize. And it's going to be separated by this landscape buffer to provide hopefully a safe enough buffer area between the vehicles that are driving on the roads. This is what the Rabbit Road typical section looks like. And just to be clear, because I think it's a misunderstanding in this area, Rabbit Road is not maintained by the county. Rabbit Road is actually maintained by the DOT, and a portion of Rabbit Road closer to the community college is maintained by a private developer. So the county doesn't maintain Rabbit Road. We don't have any authority over Rabbit Road. The county will maintain the Northeast Connector. The Northeast Connector will be a Santa Fe County built and maintained road, but the currently, what we call Rabbit Road right now is not maintained by the county.
What about the Southeast Connector?
The Southeast Connector will also be maintained. So the roads that we were talking about, these roads right there will be maintained. They will be Santa Fe County owned and maintained roads.
Just a quick question on that. That northeast, that red line, is that Rabbit Road or is it parallel to Rabbit Road?
So Rabbit Road actually ends about right there. It starts being called a different name. This is the access into Oshara. Rabbit Road goes, and I should have probably had a better map, but St. Francis is like way over here. So St. Francis, I believe Rabbit Road is, I think, 3 point something miles long, and St. Francis starts over here. There's a county road, Santiago, the county road that the gentleman earlier mentioned is somewhere over here. And then this portion of Rabbit Road is maintained by Oshara. If you see that purple line, that's actually the property line for Oshara.
Okay, thank you.
So right now we don't have a designer under contract. We are in negotiations. Hopefully we have that here pretty soon. But this is a conceptual design of what we think the northeast and southeast connector might look like. This is by no standard the final design. This is just what we're kind of contemplating right now. There's a roundabout shown right there at the west end of the southeast connector. That's Richards. There's some drainage structures there along the Arroyo. There's another roundabout over here. There's a couple drainage structures right there. I know it's kind of small, I apologize. That is College Drive. Right now, I imagine that that's going to be a roundabout. In the conceptual design, it's just shown as a three-way intersection. I really believe that that's going to be a roundabout. Then there's another access to Oshara over here. More than likely, that's going to be a roundabout also. We're going to have to do more extensive traffic modeling. The location study did some initial traffic modeling, but once we got a designer on board, we'll make it much more extensive. There's another roundabout up there at the intersection of the northeast and southeast connector, and then there's another roundabout at the intersection of Richards and the northeast connector. So the understanding is that we're going to need to require either an easement or a right-of-way from the property owners. And so there's 4 property owners that are affected. We've already been in extensive conversations with these property owners. These are some of the plats. I'm not going to go into real detail, but I just put these here to show that there are some existing easements. This is the easement for the western portion, the portion of the southeast connector that runs west and east. Rancho Viejo has already provided 124 access and utility easement. So this is another plat that's shown right there. It's calling it Abadil del Sur. If you notice, College Drive is up there. There's an existing easement for College Drive. And this is just another plat showing the same thing. That's another plat showing the same thing, just a little bit more in detail. So what is our project timeline? Right now we're hoping to have an engineer under contract in December. We imagine that it's going to be about a 12-month design process. We're hoping to get that completed in December of 2019. Our IFB process, the process to go out for an invitation for bid and to get a contractor under contract, takes about 3 months. So we're hoping right now to have construction started in about March of 2020. And we imagine that this project is going to be about an 18-month project. So we're hoping to be complete in October of 2022. This right now, the location study was partially funded by DOT and federal money. The construction and design phase D and into construction will be 100% county funded. We had tried to negotiate something with the DOT and just fell through. So the county decided to go ahead and fund this project completely with the county money. Some of that money came from the 2012 bond. Some of that money came from the 2016 bond. It was about $8.5 million for both of those bonds. And then it's getting funded in some other ways through GRT and capital money. So what are our considerations for the project? Well, we have some environmental commitments. We have to stay within the alignment that we cleared. We obviously have a budget, so we have to stay within our budget. The amount of right-of-way is going to be a big issue. We're hoping to get the right-of-way granted to us, basically given to us for free. The type of drainage and the topography is going to be an issue. The traffic flow, connectivity, safety, and the intersection improvements are all going to be a big issue. What are the prior development commitments? So there are some things that have already went in front of the Board of County Commissioners and have been basically already ruled upon. So in 2017, St. Francis South, the developer, as part of their land use permit, they were obligated to do this in the land use agreement. So they're revised to do an updated traffic impact analysis reflecting current road conditions. That's part of their design and development review. Phase 2 shall include the timing of improvements and complete road design for a build out of the development. So that's already on record. That's what the developer has to do. They're gonna have to build a right turn deceleration lane on Rabbit Road, and that's gonna have to be submitted as part of their final plat review. Another development is Elevation Multifamily Community. This is, I know this was mentioned earlier a couple of times. In the land use agreement, Santa Fe County ruled that the applicant shall construct College Drive to Community College District standard from its current terminus at Burnt Water to the western boundary to the future southeast connector right-of-way. And so what that is, that's basically College Drive in all those maps that I showed you earlier. They are allowed that they may start construction, but they're not allowed to occupy any buildings until the southwest connector is completed. So these are all things that have already been ruled upon. We can't change these. There's also another developer in the area. This developer is closer to Richards and Rabbit Road. His land use agreement says that the design of a left turn lane and right turn deceleration lane on Richards Avenue shall be submitted with the preliminary development plan application. So these are things that we can't change right now. And I'll go back to the picture of the northeast and southeast connector. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Questions? Yes, Jim.
Thank you for your presentation and for you all being here this evening to help us understand the current status. If I understand the comments, pardon me, from one or two of the presenters, they seem to prefer a roundabout more aligned with the community college to provide access about where the letters SE in Southeast Connector are. Was that considered, and then at least I'm just looking at the little map they have here, and then due west into the parking lot of the community college. Was that considered, or what are your thoughts on that?
So right now, without a consultant engineer on board and without a design, I can't really say that it's been considered or not. What I can say initially is this is a fairly large arroyo right here. And so if you see this arroyo, if we build a road somewhere in there, there's a possibility that we have to cross that arroyo twice with the drainage structure, which could cost a little bit more money. However, if we move that structure up a little bit more north, like right in there, you only have to cross that arroyo once. Right now, there's a drainage structure already. In the location study, we know that we're gonna have to put a drainage structure there, and it's a pretty big one. This arroyo crosses here again. I don't know if you remember in the flood of July 23rd this summer, that arroyo actually jumped Richards Avenue over here. So I'm not saying that that is not a possibility or it is a possibility. We can definitely look at it. It wasn't identified in the location study, the intersection. There was one right there, and then there was a roundabout right there. But we never looked at traversing this area. But that's not to say that it can't be done in the design.
And I'm just trying to grasp what some of the thinking is that, if I understand, seems like the thinking is that if there were a connection there, let's say if it was moved a little north, even to get away from that two arroyo situation, and then connect into the community college, I think the preference is that of the people that testified that that become the primary access for trucks and service vehicles and students and staff, et cetera, into the secondary access, into an emergency access into the college, as opposed to the extension of College Drive, which I think the feeling is ultimately that's going to connect because as that gets built out, that's going to connect, and you've shown that the developer already has a commitment to build that road. But prior to all that being done, we know development occurs in phases. So prior to that being done, if I'm interpreting what's being talked about here, it would be some thought to come west, or to at least provide the a roundabout and a provision for a future connection there. Not saying who would pay for that, but at least to have that in the thinking, as opposed to relying on College Drive as your major secondary access point. And that's a big problem that we've had community college all along, is that we, from an emergency standpoint, we only have one major access and egress. And if any of you remember when then candidate Obama was here at the community college giving a campaign talk, it was a nightmare. And the roads were blocked by emergency personnel and police, and people couldn't get in and out. And if there had been a serious medical emergency, I'm not sure how that would have been addressed. But anyway, Robert, good to see you. I haven't seen you for several years. I was on the commission when Robert Martinez was there, and he outlasted me, as you can see. But Robert, are your thoughts on that?
Well, Madam Chair and Vice Chair Sullivan, no, that is a possibility, but looking at the topography, the other alternative may be not to have that alternate access directly off a southeast connector, but possibly off of College Drive. College Drive near the intersection of the southeast connector somewhere, so we bypass those arroyos in that area. So that's the possibility to provide an alternate access in lieu of traversing those arroyos 2 times, because those arroyos will be pretty costly to provide all-weather access. So that's something we can look at, but just off the top of my head, maybe, like I said, an access directly off of College Drive somewhere near the intersection.
Yeah, and if I'm interpreting you, just a minute, let him talk, please. So if I'm interpreting what you're saying, that would come, let's say, diagonally down to the left toward the college, so that
that is correct. Diego, if you can put your
yeah, there you go.
Where is it?
Put your little pointer there.
So somewhere in that neighborhood,
And then down to the
college and come down. That way, we're bypassing these 2 arroyos. So the alternate access could be come down here and in here somewhere.
But you're also bypassing major truck and other traffic for the community college, is not then having to rely on College Avenue to get to the college.
That's correct.
So that traffic would then be local to that area and those residential areas as they develop, but it wouldn't be the major northern entrance to the college. And I think, if I'm understanding it, that's the concern that the residents seem to have.
That's what I understand as well. And like I said, when we have an engineering firm on contract, we can discuss this with them and bring up the suggestion that the board has asked us to consider.
But on that point, are you all paying for the extension of College Drive with this funding?
Madam Chair, as Diego stated earlier, it is elevations, part of their development permit, that they're required to build elevations to the southeast connector from where it ends now at Burnt Water. So they're required to extend it east all the way to our southeast connector.
And what mechanism are you going to utilize to involve the community in when you get with your designer to have more input about where these things might be? Or are you done?
No. So that would be a land use. It has to go in front of the BCC. Just like this board meeting, they do have public comments. So you and all the residents that are here are more than welcome to attend the county commissioners board meeting during their land use permit application.
And that would be when? Would that be after the engineering design is completed?
That would be probably after 30% design, when we know the alignment and what properties we would need to acquire easements from. But also in the contract of our engineering firm that's selected, there are public meetings that are in that contract that we will be having with the public as well.
Martha, do you have something?
Yeah, so as you're talking about eliminating the arroyos, or eliminating the cut through the arroyos, then would that road cut through the Santa Fe Community College property? That's our building property?
It does look like it. From what I can tell, you guys own all this property. In fact, it's kind of small, but it does say Santa Fe Community College right there and right there. This little vertical piece, it didn't come up on my map, but I'm assuming that that's your property also.
Is it?
Yes, our property is just adjacent to the green line there.
Is that Rancho Viejo property?
Right side?
It's on the west side.
Right.
Right there,
Yep,
yeah.
But that narrow strip right there is Rancho Viejo property?
That one right there with the.
Yeah, okay.
But if you cut across from above College Drive, that would bisect.
We're not talking about cutting across with the southeast connector. We're
Right.
talking about if you wanted.
To pay for another
You
road.
wanted another access off in that vicinity to provide a different route for your deliveries and stuff, it would be off of College Drive to eliminate or avoid those arroyos. We're not talking about moving the southeast connector on College property. We're talking about in the event you wanted an additional access to the college for your deliveries, it would have to be off of College Drive in that corner area to avoid the two arroyos. We are building structures across those arroyos to accommodate the southeast connector.
Madam Chair, could you show us on the map where the developers, what infrastructure they're required to put in? So where that would be? I don't know Burnt Road, so I'm not.
So if you see these light blue lines,
Yes.
those light blue lines represent a county-owned and maintained road. So that's Richards. We maintain it up to right there on College Drive. So right there, Burnt Water Road, that intersection, elevation is gonna have to build College Drive from the end of that road all the way to our intersection of Southeast Connector.
Whose elevation?
That I believe is Rancho Viejo.
Okay.
Then there's also, and maybe I should let Justin talk because he's been dealing with the developers more.
Before you go on, could you explain how you chose that arm for the that T&M arm for the southeast connector versus the blue line?
That was chosen in Phase B. We reviewed the evaluation of alternatives. They did an initial cost estimate in like traffic movements and traffic studies, and it came out to be the selected. You had to rank a bunch of different, there was like 100 different criteria that you had to rank each alternative on, and the alternative that got the highest points was the one that was selected. So there was like 100 different factors.
So that was an internal decision and nobody else participated?
It was engineering, it was OCAM and county staff, correct.
We would have liked to get in on that decision.
Unfortunately, I think the requirements of the location study actually don't allow we had public meetings, and I think that's where the input was given, but the ranking, they don't allow the residents to do that. I'm gonna hand it over to Justin Reese, he's the project manager, to talk a little more about the land developments in the area.
Hello, my name is Justin Reese. Yes, we've been speaking with the developers at Rancho Viejo and also up on going up the Southeast Connector, here with Alexis Gerard in this area up here where we're proposing to possibly have a roundabout coming off of Oshara, the back of Oshara. So a lot of the developers that we've spoken with, and so I don't know what other questions you want to ask me in regards to that.
Kathy, did you have? Yeah, I was just, so that's the only two pieces of infrastructure that are required. I thought there were three of them. There's one coming.
St. Francis South is going to be at the end of Rabbit Road by the Santa Fe St. Francis intersection on the east side of St. Francis.
Okay.
We don't have a map of that one.
What is elevation? Go back to the one. So is this an apartment complex? What is this?
I believe that's a proposal for apartment complex. Yes, it is.
From Rancho Viejo.
Yes, ma'am.
And where would that be in
On the map.
relationship on the map?
I believe it's going to be right in there.
Somewhere along there.
You want to point?
And the other apartment complex, the Sela?
Soleil, I believe,
Soleil.
is right there. Is that correct, Justin?
So it's up near Rabbit Road.
So Soleil's going to have to build a turning lane into his property off of the Northeast Connector. And then there's another developer right there that's planning on doing something. He has, even though we've been in initial conversations with him, he hasn't applied for a land use permit yet. When he does, there will be some requirements of him also.
And are you also going to construct the Northeast Connector?
We are constructing everything that you see here, the Northeast Connector in red and the Southeast Connector in green.
And did you say that was 8 million from each of those bonds, or 8 million total?
It was 8.5 million total for those bonds, but we have more money than that. We think that it's going to cost a little bit more than 8.5 million.
Yeah, I would think.
And the,
There's actually an existing water line that runs along this, the spur trail right there. We're going to extend it up for future development, I think about 600 feet.
I believe it's going to go to College Drive. So up to that far, that's going to go up to College Drive. It's going to be a 12-inch main that's going to run up that portion of the Southeast Connector. There's currently a 16-inch water main that runs along Avenida del Sur on the bottom, and we'll be stubbing into that as part of the project for future development.
and the road from the Southeast Connector to the community college, or who's responsible for that?
Are you talking about this leg right here?
No?
You're talking about this one?
Yes.
That's going to be the developer for elevations, which is Rancho Viejo.
And they'll also be required to maintain it, or will that be county maintained? Okay.
You say water, is there also wastewater plant?
Right now, there is not any wastewater plant as part of this project.
What discussions have you had with the state, since Rabbit Road is not a county road, but you're going to extend Rabbit Road up here to the red? You're going to
So right now, the DOT maintains to that purple intersection right there. So from that purple intersection to St. Francis is maintained by the DOT. As part of our initial negotiations, which started, I think, about 10, 12 years ago, the county was going to take over the maintenance and the ownership of the entire length of Rabbit Road from Richards to St. Francis. In that agreement, the NMDOT was going to fund the design and construction of the Northeast Connector. Those conversations fell through. The DOT did not want to fund this as we had previously agreed, so we are no longer willing to take over that portion of Rabbit Road. That Rabbit Road from that intersection right there where I'm pointing east to St. Francis is still maintained by the NMDOT and will be maintained in the future by the NMDOT.
Do you have a,
related to traffic security, school buses stopped on Rabbit Road, even though this dramatically affects it, they're not even involved in it.
So Santa Fe County took it upon themselves to do a road safety audit along Rabbit Road, and we did include the DOT. We did provide the road safety audit to the DOT. They were present. They were part of the discussions and part of the the results of they had comments, their engineers. So there has been some conclusions drawn on how to improve the safety of Rabbit Road, but that would be entirely up to the DOT.
do you have a comment, question?
There is going to be right now. There is a planned development Right.
Advantageous to have a construct there, not only as a traffic calming vehicle, circle, but also with east and west arms, which allow for further development east, okay, and planning for that, as well as the potential for a future option for direct access to the college campus.
Okay, so I think we tried to address that. I think we tried to address that because I think it was brought up by Vice Chair Sullivan about a connection here. Okay, so we did identify that, excuse me, there are two large arroyos here that if this was constructed here, that it would be too costly for the county to build two additional structures to provide that access and then go into the community college. So we're not saying that that's not possible. We're saying that we can discuss it with the engineering firm. No, well, that's what I'm saying is that it wouldn't be possible, it wouldn't be cost effective for us to be able to build something off of the southeast connector, okay, into the college. What I'm saying is it would be more feasible if we had it somewhere in this neighborhood off of College Drive, come down and then go into the college.
No, that property is, okay, all right.
So right now, the current agreement is that the developer builds College Drive up to the southeast connector. As part of our design, the county will design this intersection. We don't know exactly where this intersection is. What we do know is that we don't want to cross that arroyo twice because that's a pretty big drainage structure. That's going to probably cost about $500,000. So if we have to build two of them, that's an extra $500,000. So what we want to do is we want to build some sort of intersection there. My guess is it is going to be a roundabout and it is going to have 4 legs.
Okay, I think we need to wrap up. I want to thank the county for coming, and I hope that there's going to be more opportunity for members of the community and for the college to have input into
There is. We're going to have a 30% public meeting. I imagine that that's going to happen around in March. We are required to post it, so we will have press releases and all kinds of information. Right now, I'm going to go to the last slide. Justin Reese is the project manager. His information is posted right there. If you want to take down his number and his email address, he will keep you informed of what's going on. But we are planning right now to have a 30% design public meeting once we're done with 30% design, and I estimate that's going to be about in March.
So what that means is that they'll have 30% of it designed and show that to...
Yeah, so usually at about 30% design, we know where the alignment is, we know what type of intersections. We haven't done all the design, like the plan and the profile, the material quantities, you know, a lot of the in-depth stuff. But at 30% design, you usually know what type of intersections, the alignment, the drainage structures, and for the most part, it gives the public enough information to voice their opinion.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you, Commissioner Moreno. Thank you all from the staff. Thank you from our community, and I guess we'll see you at some hearings.
Looks like they've done more than we knew they had done. I didn't know any of that.
There you go. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
It's a good thing. Thank you, Commissioner.
I think that was very good.
Yeah, I thought
I
that.
didn't realize that the county was being invited.
No, we don't want to do that. And we can't pay
We
for
don't
it
have
with bond money.
Right.
we need to go on with our meeting. Thank you all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. See ya. Thank you, Ed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Very informative. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hi, Julie. Good to see you.
All right, do you want
Thank you very
to,
much.
Madam President?
Time.
Yes.
Go ahead with
water line.
With our employee of the month.
with the employee of the month.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. We're moving forward with the Employee of the Month announcement. For September, the Pass It Forward, Cammie Barney from OIT nominated Barbara Byrne Gonzalez from Kids Campus. Why do they have OIT there? You're right. Security. Cammie Barney is from Security, who nominated Barbara Byrne Gonzalez, Kids Campus. Are either of the two individuals here, Trish? Or do you have any? They had to leave. Was nominated by Sandra Sosa in financial aid, and we so appreciate them being here and understand that the wait was long. So we will congratulate them as we see them out and about. Thank you. So next I have the interim president's report, which you have in front of you. We already did an extensive report in work session regarding the progress on implementing the proceeds from the bond election. So you heard about that. And we're underway now on getting the vote out for general obligation bondee. And I've been on a variety of radio interviews, and yesterday, as a matter of fact, went with Dr. Gallegos, the superintendent of the School for the Deaf, and we did 2 joint interviews. They were very, it was real positive to do it together with her. And then I've done a couple of newspaper, the opinion piece, and then there was something yesterday in the New Mexican by Steve Terrell. Sorry, he interviewed me. Let's see, the leadership to support the college's efforts around student success. I wanted to highlight student Michael Kimball, who received first place at the New Mexico State Fair in the Fine Arts Exhibition printmaking category for his linoleum block print Santa Fe Station. And you have more of a description there, but he certainly is reflective of the excellence and outstanding skills of our students. So we're very proud of Mike Kimball. The college also was one of the recipients of part of a $20 million National Science Foundation grant to stimulate competitive research, EPSCoR. So we're getting almost $600,000, the only community college in the state to receive a portion of this grant in conjunction with UNM, NMSU, and New Mexico Tech. And it's regarding energy efficiency and support our electrical grid.
Is that 3 year or 1 year? Or?
5? Oh, a 5 year. 5 year. So we're proud of.
Do we get that every year?
No, they divide the 600,000 over 5 years. And certainly Dr. Steve Gomez and Dean Camila Bustamante were leads on that, so congratulations. We're proud of them. Let me see, moving down a little bit. The college hosted the STEM Santa Fe's Expanding Your Horizons Conference. We had over 200 young girls here a couple of Saturdays ago. I know that board member Sullivan was here as a volunteer. It was very exciting. I got to speak, and the director of NSF was here, Dr. Cordova. Very exciting. It's the 3rd year that we hosted, and it certainly does do a lot to emphasize the importance of STEM and encourage young girls to enter that field. So we're also proud of faculty member Patricia Pierce, who's the director of the Center for Book Art and Printmaking. She's featured in a Once Upon a Time, an exhibition that runs through October 30th at Vivo Contemporary Gallery. On the next page, I wanted to highlight that we had a very successful professional development day on this past Friday, October 19th. Thanks to Patrick Simpson and Terrence Donaldson and all the HR staff who organized the event. The keynote was given by the Sky Center for Suicide Prevention, and they gave us some just really outstanding strategies to think about regarding how we can keep ourselves safe, our students safe, and how we must start with ourselves in terms of our mental health and our mindfulness, as well as staying well in health and body. And there were breakout sessions that the Sky Center staff led. One was in the planetarium. I happened to be in that one with a number of people, because there were about 40 to 50 people in each of the breakout sessions. One did yoga, chair yoga, and one went outside. And so the one in the planetarium was about mindfulness. And our leader, Aaron Dorwald, who's the director of the Sky Center, actually led us through meditation using our senses, and faculty staff absolutely loved it. It was so relaxing that we are seriously considering opening the planetarium once a week and having a meditation session in there for anybody who wants to come, because it was very apparent the high stress level that exists at SFCC among all levels of employees and students. And students will be included in that opportunity. The other thing I have to say is that they gave an example of some schools that do this, where they'll ring a bell maybe for a minute or two twice a day or once a day, and that the whole institution is quiet during that 1 minute or two. Just stop and be mindful and breathe easy, like through a straw, and blow out through the straw. And, so we're thinking about that, seeing what we can do to begin some of those practices to take care of each other and ourselves. It was excellent, excellent. And then in the afternoon, our faculty and staff provided some outstanding breakout workshops, from throwing clay, and making beginning to make pots, to pickleball, to safety and security sessions. There was about 20 workshops that occurred. So it was just a huge success. A lot of positive feedback, and as a matter of fact, we're going to follow up. Well, the Sky Center is going to come back, because they had the evaluations. They're going to come back and review those with us to see what next steps we might take. It was just great. I can't say enough good things. Mayor Weber invited me to attend a meeting with community leaders to brainstorm about strategies for improving the recruitment and retention of police officers. I followed up that meeting with session Jerry Trujillo of our criminal justice program. So we came up with just a draft idea on offering a leadership series in criminal justice to police officers. I sent the idea to the police chief. He liked it. So as a matter of fact, tomorrow we're having a follow-up meeting with Jerry and Vice President Peters and Jerry Trujillo to see what we might be able to do. We're thinking it'd be 5 or 6 credits that we could offer, and it would be online so that it would fit into the officers' schedules as a way of reinforcing that they are leaders in our community and we need them desperately.
Did you see what CNM was doing with APD?
Yes, yes.
Offering, it's unclear to me
Yeah,
exactly
some type
what
of a law enforcement academy, and I want to talk, when I see Jerry tomorrow, I want to ask him about that, because we talked about it, but it seems like there's already an academy here that law enforcement.
Well, APD has an academy
I know,
too,
so I'm gonna
unclear about
how they could do it.
What are they doing?
The other thing, couple of things that I wanted to mention is that the Santa Fe Literary Review held their annual reading and gallery reception on October 18th in the Visual Arts Gallery, and it was outstanding. Kudos to Linda Castle, our visual arts director and college art on campus director. She does both. And also Kate McCahill, faculty member in English. They organized this. Paul from Palm helped to put up the work in the Visual Arts Gallery. It'll be up through, I think, Halloween. And then we had readings, people who read from the literary review, their work, their prose, their poetry. Bezad read. It was just lovely. It was packed. Wonderful evening. They had refreshments. It was just beautiful. And last but not least, on Monday, the Legislative Education Study Committee met here at Santa Fe Community College. I gave a presentation on successes of the college, on challenges, on strategies to improve access and success of students, particularly in those categories that are not taking advantage of higher education. There was a lot of questions. I was on for an hour and a half presenting and answering questions. Thanks to Yash Muramoto, who helped me with the presentation, put together the presentation. And then we gave tours to the members of the study committee. And just today, Senator Souls, because I went to, Yash and I were at the committee and you were listening to it about the funding formula. And he brought up, why do we not want to invest in education? I was at Santa Fe Community College and I went through the allied health programs and they're all jam-packed, but there's no room for more, for more students because there's no faculty like this gentleman talked about today. And we need to invest in education, he said, because that's the most important way that we can use our money to benefit our residents, our citizens, and the state.
And I did have 2 legislators come up to me yesterday and say, "Oh, I love the campus. I love that trades and technology
Yes.
in the health area."
They went through the health area, a group went through the health area, another one went through the trades and advanced technology area. So it was very successful and very positive. And certainly the great thing is getting legislators on campus that have not been here before and see what we do so effectively. That is all, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Yes.
Question.
Okay, Jack first.
2 quick questions. Dr. Savanas, you mentioned that you attended the opening of the new Early Learning Center at what used to be the Coney Elementary School.
Yes, I did.
And you said that Santa Fe Community College is a partner.
Yes.
What does that mean? What do we do as a partner?
If I'm not mistaken, that has to do with the early childhood program, and we're working in conjunction with them on the Firstborn, the home visitation program that we recently acquired. Yes. So we're partnering with them in order to provide that level of service and programming.
I see. So that's a program that we have now that we're going to be able to offer to some of their clientele.
That's correct. And providing the training, I think, also, so some of their staff can provide the training in homes where there's new infants.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. And the second question was, I've talked in the past about what I call our course scheduling committee. I think it's got a fancier name than that. How are we doing with that?
Very well. Very well. As a
what's it called? I
can't remember. Margaret.
The scheduling task force? Okay, that's not too bad. I can remember that.
Some of the results of their work will be reflected in the spring 19 schedule. So it will be in there the way they have scheduled in a more systematic manner.
Okay, I just wondered, we have a retreat coming up on Friday, our annual retreat, where we're going to explore many alternatives, I assume, to better our delivery of services to our students. Certainly one of those options is better scheduling, which the college is fully aware of. So I didn't know if there was anything that committee could provide us as to thoughts and recommendations that we could think about during this meeting on Friday. That's in 25 words or less, of course.
Sure.
Sure.
Well, we have a number of exciting things going and things that have come together to work in concert. So the scheduling task force has really joined up with the Guided Pathways Meta Majors group. And then we also have an evening, weekend, and online scheduling group that are meeting. And so all of that is sort of working together. We have several programs that we're offering in the spring, either starting in the spring or over the course of the spring, that are offered entirely either evening, weekend, or online formats, so that students who are interested in taking the courses that way will be able to complete those certificates in that format. We also have the standardized scheduling times that folks are working with now entirely for the spring schedule. And then I'm going to let Colleen talk just a bit about the guided pathways meta majors. Is all that?
Well, a question on that. I recall your last report was that that you were just getting to a point of evaluating software that did some of these magic things. So could you talk about the magic software?
Right. So the magic software is called Ad Astra, and we've been working with the details and information that it gave us so that we could look at how we're actually offering the classes and how sort of unstandardized our scheduling blocks were. And so that was one of the big parts of the project, was to identify appropriate blocks so that there would be less conflict between classes. And then along the same lines, as we're building the guided pathways for each major, it's helping us identify the places where we have to be careful to make sure that the courses don't overlap. You know, we know some of these sort of through a non-data-based approach, but by building the pathways, we're really starting to see some other places where we have to avoid overlap of courses.
So we're past the software.
So the software is
study.
something
Good.
that we're using it, we're putting it into practice, and we're putting together a handbook that helps us use it more effectively.
The other thing I wanted to mention along those lines is that I had asked Vice President Peters yes, we wanted to offer these programs in online and in alternative modes, but I also was interested in supporting our students who wanted to complete a program in either in one semester or just a little more into the summer maybe. So they've got some of those in the schedule that we are providing for our students in order for them to get done and complete the program within a semester.
And I believe it came up during the work session. Jeremy Lovato brought up the college scheduler. We've had a grant to help us get this software associated with college scheduling so that our students have a very user-friendly, kind of intuitive format for building a schedule. Mm-hmm. And so that's a positive thing, too, that we're going to start using this fall. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Spring. Yeah, but for registration for the spring, it'll be this fall.
Yeah, in November.
When registration opens, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
George?
Yes. I just wanted to ask Dr. Cervantes if there's any update on Midtown campus. I know that's something that is back there. It's not on a front burner, but...
Margaret. I'm going to get a Kleenex and this is like covered with water.
No, we have not heard any more from the city regarding what the next steps were. What I read last was that they were going to do let out an RFP for organizations to respond, but that has not occurred. So there has not been any more movement. I don't think any of the other... Todd, have you heard anything from your sources in economic development? No. Mm-mm.
Are we a recipient of do they just communicate with us, or do we initiate any kind of regular communication?
We have been initiating, and I hadn't for a few months. Actually, since the summer, when we were in conversations about how we could help keep the campus alive over the summer. So we had 2 events that we participated in, which were very successful, but that was just for the summer. That wasn't beyond.
Right. Yeah. I would hope that we could maintain a somewhat regular communication, maybe pushing a little bit to the city, because that's such a wonderful potential resource for the community college. And I know the city is concerned about its financial obligations there, but and I'm not sure exactly what the college would do with it, but I think for us to be constantly probing and and following what their thoughts are. Thank you.
Thank you. You're
I
right.
thought there is no more like group or task force or, because you
No,
were.
I asked the mayor, one of the last times I talked to him, I
Yeah.
said, okay, well, you've had your little, because he had like a kitchen cabinet, and, you know, we weren't on there, it was mainly his staff that were on there, and I said, well, once you get beyond that, why don't you include us in your expanded kitchen cabinet, and us be involved in the conversations, you know, so I did ask him about that, but I want to follow up.
We're not hearing anything.
No, it's been very quiet since early summer. So you're right, we need to follow up and find out.
Thank you.
Next steps, thank you.
In the meantime, the weeds are overgrowing that campus.
Oh, and the gophers.
If you've ever driven through it recently.
Bad.
And they're continuing to tear down some of those buildings.
One thing the mayor said, I mean, this is just very small, is that as he's planning to offer incentives for recruiting and retaining police officers, that there are some larger residential halls that have larger suites that maybe one police officer or one police officer and a spouse could be offered at a reduced rate, like $800 a month or something like
You
that.
mean the campus
Yes,
dormitories?
yes, but the larger ones.
Yeah, which
So-
need a lot of work.
Need a lot of work, but that's what he did say for one building. I don't know how many.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I make the recommendation that just like we invited the county this evening to give us an update on the Southeast Connector, that maybe we invite someone from the city to come and give us an update on the Midtown campus at our December meeting?
Right,
We'll follow up.
Took us, 4 months to get the county, but hopefully
Yeah.
the city we can get a little quicker.
Right. Will do.
It was
Wasn't
a
that good?
very good
We
update.
found out a lot.
And the public found out a lot, which apparently they didn't know, and
Right.
we didn't know. I had no idea that they had finally decided on the road.
Nobody did.
I thought we were still being considered, which I was hoping we weren't going to be, but, yeah.
You know, they put out an RFP for architects several months ago.
Are you applying?
No. Not a chance.
Okay. Thanks. How about an enrollment report?
Okay, I'm happy to be here.
Favorite
to
update. No, you're not happy.
Go. Yeah, I'm happy to be here in front of you all.
Practicing joy.
And
Not worry.
I am. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Cervantes, I would like to just call your attention to the fact that we are down 6.49% in head count, and we are down 9.67% in FTE and credit hours, and down just 3.5% in courses. And I have Todd here who's going to talk about an exciting event that we have coming up tomorrow evening. That's what all of those tables you see lining the main hallway out there are about. And then I'm happy, of course, to sit for any questions that you all have.
Okay.
Thank you, members of the board, Chair Siegel, Vice Chair Sullivan. Tomorrow is our inaugural SFCC and HEC night at the college. Marcos is who would probably do a better job of pitching this to you or selling it right now, is actually working hard on it. So I'm glad he's doing what he's doing. But we've put a lot of leverage, a lot of effort into this. It's open to the community. We've encouraged far and wide people to attend, and the participation is going to be good. There's several dozen tables and the labs and the people available to share their disciplines, as well as a welding display in the courtyard. So it should be I think a nice feast for the senses tomorrow from 6 to 8. And so yeah, it's basically a big open house, and hopefully we've all heard about it. In addition to our programs, there are going to be the partners from the Higher Education Center our partner schools in attendance. So it's also, we believe, a strong event because it's relevant not just to prospective students, but current students as well. So we're encouraging everyone that this is something that, bring a friend, and come check it out.
Didn't we do this last year? Or is this?
We've done smaller versions of these in different iterations. But this is really in the collaboration, the kind of joint HEC, SFCC, this is the first of its kind. And then also open houses happen on smaller programmatic levels all the time.
And I think something, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, as I understand it, that we're doing in lieu of kind of the traditional college fair, if you will, because there aren't not as much interest traveling around for folks as much as there used to be maybe when it was a bit more of a traditional format. So it's exciting that this is happening. We have our partner institutions with the HEC that are going to be there. We also have some of our internal folks, departments being represented, academic departments, but also, student service type departments. And so tours and demonstrations. So that's all very exciting.
And just a couple highlights for me from this, just on the, technical side, just to share kind of where our heads are at, I guess, is we will be doing some geofencing, capturing information in terms of prospective students. Couldn't resist get through a meeting without having to talk about that again. But that I'm excited about that, and also it's kind of the start of some deeper levels of data capture. We've been sending out text messages, and really what that is important to take away about that is that we are starting to develop our relationship management. And so all this process goes into what we would call lead generation and developing relationships with lead generation of these students, which is kind of, that might not be the best term in higher education, but these are leads, prospective students that we want at this college, and because we believe that this is valuable to them and to their success. And so, yes, behind this, up front is all this great presentation, but behind the scenes, there's also
Stealing their emails.
it's having a deeper phone relationship through advertising is how I might characterize it. But yes. That is true, and then also real quickly, because I know we had a robust conversation about roads tonight, so I don't want to take up too much time. Mason, I just want to share a campaign that's kind of in development with you, and so a lot of our conversation right now has been about flexibility. And now what's really cool about this is we're still a little heavy on copy, but we're getting lighter. We're not using words as much. And what you'll notice is in this photo, what we have are students, right? That's important.
Dark out.
But not only do we have students, we have the interaction between perhaps a student and maybe a mentor who's going to take them and help them to their success. So some of the print topics we've talked about. We also have an evening environment in the background. We have the higher education center in the background. So there's some other small details, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. And this is a very deliberate photo to communicate things so that we don't have to be as literal about saying them. And so this is kind of informing a campaign that I think will start in time. We had to rush to get this in for the spring credit schedule, but this will be.
Is that the cover?
This is an insert, but this will be in many places. This is kind of just one iteration of many. Another interesting thing about this is in the language, which is a little bit harder to see, and that's just a screen grab from my phone, but are some actual classes that are programs that are in accelerated areas. And so
Business, healthcare,
that might strike an interest.
technology, social media, and fitness education, and more.
So So it was put together quickly, but I'm happy with it, and I think we continue to have good input from not only these sessions, but from all stakeholders across the campus, from all employees and students as well, and so yeah, just look forward to hopefully more projects that kind of reflect the feedback that we've been getting.
Great.
And that takes up a full page in our print schedule. I saw proof of it today, and it's beautiful.
And is this something that will be sent out to everyone that you geo-fence tomorrow?
The actual campaign is very exciting. It's probably like 30 things long in terms of a piece of creative like this will be broken down into many versions. So yeah, this would be served on some level to mobile phone users, but also, I mean, as kind of more grassroots and realistic as handouts to all the Santa Fe public schools, to stuff in their boxes, to the student distribution at all the schools. And some of them, the material will actually be geared to the parents specifically. So this is kind of a general campaign, but what I think the future of marketing and higher education is really becoming kind of targeted and segmented. And so that means that you may see an ad like this with those two individuals, and you might see the exact same copy or something very similar, but with, I don't know, let's say more like high school looking aged people. So it's the A-B approach. We have one A subject, and our big subjects right now are high school students and adult learners. And so we're not only creating campaigns that are broad, but also segmented to kind of relate to both of them. And so everything is about just reaching new and just trying to leverage the demand that we might have in certain pockets of the community to come here.
Great, thank you.
I was formulating a question. Just a second.
Madam Chair, while you're formulating,
Yes,
may I
please.
ask? Okay, so I'm going back to enrollment numbers. I'm just looking, I'm interested about how the courses, we're down less in courses than we are in headcount. So does that mean to us that we have more students who are coming back part-time? What do we attribute that to?
It doesn't necessarily mean that. I think what you're going to find is we are scheduling better, and so we've seen, if you look historically, we've seen over the past several years, we've been more and more down in courses compared to the prior semester, at that time of the year. And that has been because we needed to do some work on scheduling so that we are scheduling smarter and filling the classes that we have or coming closer to that rather than running classes with fewer numbers of students. But it's not an exact thing, right? So we're going to always have some classes that we need to run with fewer students. We're not able to cancel those classes with the fewer students because the students need it to graduate imminently. They're trying to graduate in December, for example. And so that may reflect why you don't see the number of classes matching the number of students that we're down, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, here's my question.
Okay.
So about 1,500 of our current students are between the age of 25 and 44. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge group of probably working people. Mm-hmm. And do we have, you don't have to tell me what it is, but do we have a specific marketing campaign to them?
Yes, that's exactly kind of what I'm hoping to get to here is to cater to those folks. And so aside from, I kind of talked about the more aesthetic side of that with the image and things like that being at night and, actually talking about the flexibility as our campaign. But the other piece of that is identifying who these people are in our community, using, marketing research and then reaching out to them directly. And that's just one marketing approach. There's, Marcos who will kind of do a lot of like boots on the ground, on-site visits. And so there's that approach as well. And I think just the whole conversation that's been going on at not just outside of our office about how we're structuring our offerings to the public to indeed give them as many options during an evening, weekend, or online as we possibly can, so that, you know, we're following through with our marketing promises of being flexible and accessible. And so it is, so there's a lot of ways to approach that question, but that is our goal, and our strategy this time around is very much a focus on that age group.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Madam Chair?
Anything else? Yes.
So I would love to see the numbers on that, on how many courses we offer at, Monday through Friday from 8 until 4, that normal block. And then how many courses, what percentage of our courses are offered at night and on the weekends? I think that would be great to take a look.
That'd be good on this report, wouldn't it?
You see the back of this?
Yeah.
That's something we can definitely add to the report, and in fact, in the printed schedule coming out, if I'm not mistaken, Todd, don't we have a page that's designated for these particular classes that are evening, weekends, and online, if I'm not mistaken. So, but we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Faculty Senate report. Zuby, do you want to come up?
President Cervantes, Chair Siegel, members of the board. First, I just want to say, I don't say this that often at these meetings, but I really love my job. I really love my students. I really love my colleagues. We have quite a number of evening classes offered over in Trades and Technology. As a matter of fact, with the exception of one lab, every single classroom and every single lab had evening classes over there this evening. And the faculty got together last week and decided that we noticed that a lot of our students are financially challenged. And so we started this week cooking for them. So we provided meals for our students tonight, and they really appreciated that. And that was a really nice thing. Everyone wanted the recipe for my squash soup. Now, we didn't have quite enough food. It's a big task. There were over 100 students in our building tonight. But
To increase enrollment.
yeah, we could do that more often. More food for the masses. But anyhow. It really truly is a blessing to work at the community college, and it's a really great opportunity. And I don't think we don't always say that, because, as I've said, I think before, one of the reasons that we have a lot of criticisms of the college is because we're still very engaged and we have very high expectations, and we know that the college is capable of even better things. And I think that we should all appreciate the fact that the faculty, the staff here are very engaged, and I've been to other colleges where they're not as engaged, and they don't complain and push on things. They just go home and don't push back. Anyhow, a big part of our activities recently have been on the policies 3.3 and 3.4, which are now in front of you, and about the general education distribution. And I want to really thank Associate Dean Colleen Lynch for really showing great academic leadership and really helping the faculty working through a process of looking at how to put the flexibility that was given to us by the state into place. And I have to say, a couple of months ago, we were so far from consensus. We went through so many processes of looking at, and everybody kind of was staking out their own turf and having ideas of what they wanted. And when we, a few weeks ago, we said, listen, at this point, we have to come up with an idea. That we're coming to the deadline. And I was very impressed when we all got together and started discussing this, how quickly we came to very close to consensus, and that the things that we don't completely agree on, everyone's very happy whichever way it goes. So I'm very happy to say that we've come to some really, and again, thanks to Colleen and many members of the faculty who put a lot of time and energy into that. Another thing we've been working a lot on is our faculty handbook. And so we have our first draft of the faculty handbook was handed to me yesterday, and we'll be looking through that. There's a lot of things to look at with that, because the faculty handbook, the place of it has to come in alignment with our policies. And I know some of the proposals in the current draft are different than what our current policies are. And so the question we're looking at, our policy review committee is going to be looking at where those differences are and whether we want to adjust the faculty handbook to meet the policies, or where there are areas that maybe the policies might be reviewed as to come into alignment with the handbook. And it's a very early draft. Very few members of the faculty have seen this draft, so it may be that it's not a consensus document at all. But we really want to make sure that we go through that with great detail to make sure if there are things that we really do want in this draft, that we begin the conversation with the board and the administration about whether or not those policies might be possible to change, or what things might not change, and we need to align the handbook to that. The full presentation is going to be on November 16th in front of the Faculty Senate, and then we'll come back and have a final vote on that, probably first meeting in February. Hopefully to be able to get a document that we can send in with our portfolio for accreditation. I want to thank Chair Siegel. We'll be attending our Faculty Senate meeting next Friday on November 2nd, and we look forward to that. I think that will be an outstanding opportunity, have a great dialogue. A lot of my colleagues, I go around campus and talk to people about what they are looking for and what they hope for. One of the things I'm hearing a lot of is whether or not there could be program by program invitations to board members to come and meet the program, find out more about individual programs, meet the faculty, meet the students. Some of them say that we don't know the board members, and we don't think they know us, and we'd like to tell them all about our program. So we're hoping to begin to put something along with the deans and associate deans, to put together some scheduled things that maybe we can get some of the board members to come and just get to know the students, the programs, so that they can talk about what their opportunities are, what their needs are, and how we can build the programs and best serve our students. And I think that would be great, and I look forward to coming out with something a little more detailed on how we can accomplish that moving forward, and maybe roll that out in the spring semester.
That's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Yeah, I have wonderful colleagues. They come up with great ideas like that. So, and that is my report. Not very long tonight. I was teaching a plumbing class till 6:30. I didn't think I was going to make. I was worried about not coming in. And we were still in public comments when I got here.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, Martha.
I have a comment on what's in our book is B4. It's a report that you got about the search committee process, the presidential search committee process. Mm-hmm. And there's a statement at the top of the page that says that there are several dozen candidates and consultants identify semifinalists. They recommend 5 finalists, and the interviews are public. That is not correct.
Okay.
The interviews, the semifinalists are selected, first of all, by the search committee, mm-hmm. With the help of the consultants. And secondly, the 5 finalists are, and they will hold semifinalist interviews. Those are not public. Mm-hmm. They have to be kept confidential because of the candidates. The candidates usually at that point want confidentiality. And then secondly, the 5 finalists are interviewed by the board only. The interviews are not public, but usually what we plan to do is to have a forum when the candidate is here to interview with the board, where people from the community, people internally and externally, could meet the finalists, and have some conversation with them. So that is public, mm-hmm. but the interviews themselves with the board are not.
That's correct. That's my understanding too.
Okay. So I just wanted
I think that was just an error we didn't catch in the
Okay.
minutes.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
One question, Zuby. On a B3, you say that AAUP wants to know what faculty would like to be included on the governing board. Is that the governing board of the Faculty Senate, or is that the governing board of Santa Fe Community College?
So it is, which number?
It's the number.
It's B3, it's number 6 under AAUP.
Oh, what qualities? Not what.
Number 6 wants to know what faculty would like to be included on the governing board.
It's what qualities what qualities the people would like to have in governing board members.
Well, that's not what it says.
Okay, yeah, and I will.
Okay, so AAUP would like to know what qualities the
faculty would like
the
governing board
the members of the union faculty would like in governing board members. Okay, well, number one, I could refer them to state statute. That would be a starter.
Which requires nothing other than age, whereas it doesn't even require age.
Residents.
Residents,
yeah.
Okay, anything, oh, George, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to follow up on your suggestion regarding departments opening up and giving some opportunity for board members to visit. I think it's a wonderful idea. I think there are lots of little variations of that. I know at a foundation board meeting, they invited some students in. Mm-hmm. And I think we could do that periodically as well if that was a part of whatever planning you wanted to do, and see if it would work. It might work for some departments. It might be easier for them just to come to a board meeting and talk about the program. Other departments may want to do a little show of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think my sense was that people really want to be able to show the facilities, the environment, show students actually vary and come to us as opposed. And I think that both are a good idea. But we'll work on figuring out ways. I know top of the list, the film department, and especially with all this new opportunities that will be coming our way. I think that they're a program that really is primed for tremendous growth in the near future, and they're also they're a lot of fun, and they're a great department to be around. The students are very motivated. If you want to hear, they're going to be on my radio show tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to listen to them, they're going to be talking about their program.
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock, 4:06.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Zuby, I just wanted to thank you for you and all the faculty for this dinner that you provided the students tonight. I think that is really unselfish and sensitive, to the fact that these students are in great need. And I also, do you know if you're going to do this again on another evening?
The people who teach on Wednesday nights are hoping to do it every Wednesday night.
Okay. And
but we had no idea that there were so many other classes in our wing, so we ran out of food tonight.
So would you accept, if I were to make some cornbread, or, may I bring it and offer it? Okay, yeah. Wednesday night. What time?
Well, the classes are all at different times, so it's
okay, but what time do you want it? In order to prepare?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. We'll get the word out, okay, and have
everything came in phases tonight. We had
that's okay.
We had rice at one time, and then
that's okay.
Salads came later.
We want to help. We want to help Zuby.
Well, okay,
so
thank
you.
I know the students would appreciate it. And if you wanted to come down and say hi and offer it to them, I think that would be great too.
You said 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Wednesday nights. Okay. Yeah. You got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Zuby. All right, Senate. Faculty, staff Senate. Staff Senate, I'll get it out.
Good evening, Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Cervantes. Really a brief report this time. You can see our minutes. We have come up with a strategic plan and a specific action plan for the Staff Senate for the next year, and thanks to Julie Gallegos for that. I presented on the upcoming accreditation events that we have, and the potential change from an AQUIP school to another school in a couple of years, or another type of accreditation. We're hoping to work with Executive Director of Human Resources Donaldson to bring the care form that was developed jointly to you at a future meeting. And I wanted to respond to your request last time for a retention rate for employees, and I would defer to Executive Director Donaldson for that.
What is a care form?
The CARE is the collaborative annual employee review form that we developed. You all asked about it this summer, and I wanted to come back with that. So I would defer to Executive Director Donaldson to answer that question for you. That's all I have. Yeah. I'll stand for questions.
Any questions? So where are we with our staff salary review, whatever?
Process?
Process.
That is coming under the auspices of our compensation study. And I know that Terrence Donaldson met with Staff Senate recently and listened to their concerns and their suggestions, and I believe is getting ready to go back for a follow-up meeting very soon, if I'm not mistaken.
We've asked for him to come back, yes.
So are we going to go out to bid for a study or a salary?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Staff Senate is planning to make a budget request this year. We shared the presentation that we did for you in 2016 with President Cervantes and Executive Director Donaldson and Amy Pell. We've asked IR to update that data so that we have some more current numbers for you, and then we'll be making a proposal during the budget process, and we'll see where that goes.
Thank you to the board, Madam Chair, Madam President. In reference to the compensation study, we have just completed the scope of work, and we're in the process of completing the RFP, which we will release tomorrow. So progress is continuing.
Okay, good. Yeah. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
As long as I have Director Donaldson here. So the question that I asked that in our back and forth last meeting was about staff retention rates. I don't expect that you may know those off the top of your head, but at some point I'd love to know if we have that number about retention rates with our staff. So what's our average tenure? When we get someone in place, how long do they stay? And what's our retention rate?
Yes, in terms of retention, we are working on that number. We were actually working on getting a reliable number at this time.
Okay.
So yes, I will definitely keep you posted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Would like to say one follow-up. So Staff Senate's understanding of the RFP and the compensation study is that's a more than 1 year process. And so our concern is that consideration be given this year and not entirely wait. We think that some solutions may be possible before the comp and class study is done. And so we have a slight polite disagreement about that, but we are bringing that forward.
Although, are you talking about the fiscal year that begins July 1, 2019, or are you talking about this fiscal year?
No, the fiscal year that begins July 1, 2019, our understanding from the administration is that even with an RFP out, that a compensation and class study would probably go into fiscal 2019. Therefore, any consideration for staff raises would not happen until fiscal 2020. And so something we're discussing with them.
Yeah.
Maybe we could get an estimate of the time frame.
Yeah, what is the timeline in order to complete the compensation study? Terrence, please.
As it is currently written in the scope of work, we are planning or forecasting a completion sometime late April.
That's what I thought. Sooner.
Great.
Late April of
19.
And the last information we had was out of Terrence's action plan, which had it out later. So if that's changed, that's wonderful news. Thank you.
Yeah, we really did want to have the results in time to consider as we developed next year's budget.
Yes. That's cutting it close, but.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thanks. All right, let's go to the consent calendar, which doesn't exist.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Madam President. Thank you, Jack.
He's been patiently.
Yes.
Waiting.
You probably have a
And I have
study,
a
right?
report today. Good afternoon, members of the board. Chair Siegel, not per diem, Jesus Christ. I'm so stuck with that right now. Interim president. So today for my report, I have, SGA was part of Hispanic Heritage Month. I myself was a judge at the salsa tasting contest.
All right.
OSD, with the collaboration of OSD, there were two workshops funded. One was by Carol Chavez and the other one with Steve Martinez. There were also two folklorico dance performances that happened, which were very beautiful. Two former students came to sing Miguel and Jovita. Fund requests for this semester or this month were Freedom Ambassadors and also Breath Savers.
Savers?
Breath. We have to really. Some people will ask if it's breasts instead of breath. As for clubs, so one thing that is really powerful here is when we began SGA, our goal was to create community. And it is really empowering to see what the clubs are doing outside of the college also, not only in here, but also outside. For example, the Sculpture Union, they're donating gates to Habitat for Humanity. So they're working on doing those, and then they donate them to Habitat for Humanity. The Nursing Club, they did the Alzheimer's Walk and raised about $1,000. Also, they were doing a fundraiser today at the flu shot clinic that was here up in Hamas rooms. The Fellowship of Gamers, they are working on doing an escape room, and also during Halloween they will be the Halloween trick or treat event. They will be doing a fundraiser with their escape room also. Today we did celebrate October birthdays. We usually the last meeting of the month. We purchase cupcakes and we celebrate anybody whose birthday is during that month. Then we continue having Historian V. Hill being part of TAC and also the Governance Council. Vice President Sigala is part of PDAC. SGA previously had mentioned about working on a project which was a discount card. At the moment, we have put that in the back burner, and we may revisit this either in the spring semester or pass it along to the next team for the 2019-2020 term. And this is because of a little bit of a change in priority of goals. What we're trying to do is really focus on the survey that we did and act upon it, and also that is where we would like for our attention to go for the student needs assessment, to keep our commitment and follow through with what was asked by the students, because I think it's really important not only to just survey students all the time, because we as students also get frustrated from getting over surveyed and sometimes things not being done. So we do not want to do that. So that is where we've decided that instead of creating a whole new, project, we will build on what we've already worked on. Also, for this, right now we're focusing on Halloween in partnership with OSD. We are expected to have between 4,000 to 5,000 families come through. It is very exciting. I've helped 2 years consecutively. There will be an office contest, so hey, put it out there, offices. come up with your greatest inventions, costume contests. Kid Campus does come and visit in the morning, the main campus. Trick-or-treating happens from 3:30 to 7. And what I've heard is people start lining up outside since 2 o'clock. So there's a ginormous line by the time we open up the doors for trick-or-treating. During this time, there will be a game room and prizes, a haunted house. Upcoming, from November 5th through the 9th, we will have a tribute to the veterans with a memorial wall. November 9th is the Long Life Leaders Conference, which I have been asked to be a keynote speaker. And also coming up, the 16th through the 18th, SGA will be attending the ASGA conference in Los Angeles, which I will have an update for you all in our next board meeting of how this training went. It's a great opportunity for us. Last year we participated in this conference, and it was a lot of knowledge. We were really new, and this team that is going now, there's 2 who have already been in SGA for a term, and then we have 2 fresh ones. So it'll be a very interesting and really informative conference in order for us to grow more and learn different strategies and opportunities for SFCC and the SGA team. Thank you. Any questions?
So the survey that you are doing, is it possible for you to share with us the results of those surveys? Because I think that so often we do not ask students what they need, and we make assumptions about that, but it would be wonderful if you could share the results of that survey.
And actually oops, it's off. There. The survey is actually done. We do have the results already, and we will definitely send them your way. We will email to the board. We will email to everybody, and we will work from there. There were things that you would be surprised how you would think, this is really important for our students. I do recall one that scored really high was healthy snacks on the campus.
So maybe you can also put it on your agenda for our next meeting. We can talk about it a bit.
Sure, definitely.
That's also been my experience, is that when you survey students, you learn a whole lot.
Yes. Let me take note of that.
Did you find that students wanted healthy snacks or didn't want healthy snacks? Okay.
They actually wanted.
Good.
I'm not sure that the sales numbers at the bookstore back that up. But I'm glad that our students want healthy snacks.
Great. Any other questions for me? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Now we're on to the consent agenda, which doesn't have much on it. Let's see, I think we removed, Martha, you wanted to remove the September 26th?
That's correct.
Okay, that one should be removed from the consent agenda. And then, is there any contest over the special meeting of October 12th? Any discussion we need on that?
No,
Okay,
that one's okay.
That one's okay, all right. So can we
Same way with the work session of September 26th.
Oh, the work session of September 26th is okay?
Yeah, it's the regular meeting that's the problem.
That's the one that I want to take off the...
Oh, you want that one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize. May I
Gotta
say
go?
one last thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I completely blanked out on this one. I actually have it written here, but this just happened today. So we found out that for our GED students, some are having a little bit of a difficult time paying for the exam they have to take. So it was brought up today, and it's a little bit of a challenge for all of us and the clubs to do kind of a little bit of a community event. Well, not exactly event, but for all of us to be willing to donate a specific amount and then donate it to the GED department so that these students are able to take their exam without any
How
hesitation.
much are those exams?
Good question. I did not clarify, but it's in the works right now. We just brought it up, and to start off, the Freedom Ambassadors are donating $20. So that is very powerful. That's in support of our community, and also this brings in new students into our campus because they're getting their high school equivalency, so then they can start being students here after they're done with that. But if they haven't taken their exam, then that holds them back to come into the college as college students.
How does that work? Okay. Well, how does that work with the GED? Anybody out there know? In terms of they come here, do they have to pay for their test? Do they have to pay for the class? What is it?
Yeah, there is a fee.
Oh. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
$80?
That's for the high set, and then GED is $20 per test. So that's 5, so that's
100.
So that's 100. So depending on which test you take, most people are taking the high set.
Wow.
So 80 to 100 depending.
Mm-hmm.
Plus a $10 seating fee per test payable.
So
That's for GED, and then $8 seating fee per test for the high set. So 80-ish, and then 100.
So just like we did the cap and gown fund last year, we're working on creating something similar, but for our GED students.
Okay. All right, thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, could
Yes.
we just clarify? It sounds like everything's being pulled from the minutes except for the October 12th. Is that correct?
Yes.
No.
No. No? Martha just said she wanted September 26th.
But that was the regular meeting.
The works.
Oh, did she want the work session?
Do you want the regular meeting or the work session?
Regular meeting.
Okay, so the work session is okay of September 26th. And all the others are pulled.
All the others are full.
So I move we pass the consent agenda with the minutes of the work session of September 26th, minutes of the special meeting of October 12th, and the policy on litigation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let's start with the minutes of the work session of August 22nd.
The only correction that I have is on page C35.
Okay,
And our mine.
C35? That's not the work session.
No, that's the regular meeting.
No, we're on the work session of
we're
August
on work
22nd.
session of August 22nd.
That's the
You
first
didn't
one.
want to pull those?
Yeah, I've got one on that.
Okay.
Okay.
On page C3, at the bottom,
Of August 22nd?
the work session of August 22nd,
Okay.
which is
C3.
page C3. Fourth bullet from the bottom.
Fourth bullet.
3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Says, because the economy will make shifts, and this is an opportunity to blow on the paradigm. So what does blow on the paradigm mean?
Okay, let's see.
You don't know that?
I got to admit, at my age, I do not have all of the latest jargon.
Does that blow up the paradigm?
I believe the board members were talking about shifting the paradigm from the
Yeah.
traditional historical community college and just blow up the whole concept of how things are supposed to be and shift the paradigm. So I think that's what the board members were talking about.
So maybe we should just say shift the paradigm. Would that be better, or blow up the paradigm? I don't know, whatever you want.
Okay, and
I think that was Todd's comment.
It
blow
was.
up.
To blow up the paradigm. Okay, well, let's call it blow up the paradigm. Okay. Move for approval of those minutes of August 22nd, 2018 work session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Blow up the paradigm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, that's The work session. Then we have the regular session of August 22nd.
Yeah, C-35.
No, that's August 26th. That's September 26th.
No, August 22nd.
We're on August 22nd now.
We're on August 22nd. At what?
We'll get to C-35.
Is there anything, oh, you have something on August 22nd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
C-10,
C10.
okay. Bullet at the top of C-10.
It's Todd again.
Yes, it's Todd again.
Where is he?
Right there. Todd.
Okay, it says we can use the system where we can organize and management our data. And I just think we need to take out the management and make it managed, that's all.
Okay.
Okay?
Manage our.
That's an easy one.
Manage our data. That would be C10. And then I have another recommendation. Let's see, we're on the regular meeting. Okay, C15. Now, on C15, we had a lot of changes made, and you'll see those in yellow. And then also I see that another third set of minutes has appeared at our table this evening with some other highlights of yellow on it. There's a couple things that I just wanted to ask about. About halfway down, and I'm on page C15.
Of which set?
Well, good question. The one in the book, yes, the one in the book. The third bullet down, where it's discussed about the listening sessions. The original, what it says now is, in here it says Terrence will chair and Donna will help with logistics and take notes. What it says on the one that's now been handed out is the same thing. What it said in the original one was Donna will help with the logistics. Donna, don't keep minutes, just notes. That's what the original one said. So my question was, did we, or did Donna or somebody take minutes? And if not, why not? I attended one of those listening sessions and thought it was very interesting. And I would have liked to have had time, but I would like to read about what was talked about at the other sessions, rather than having it just homogenized by the search consultants and presented to us in our special session. So my question is, did someone take minutes? No minutes, and why not?
We talked about that, not taking minutes.
And why would we not take minutes?
Because it's not a formal meeting of the board.
Okay, so did someone take notes, and then are those notes available?
No, those notes are not available. The consultants took whatever notes they felt they needed to have in order to create the profile.
But it said here that Donna will take notes.
Donna will take notes of the search committee meetings, but those notes also do not get distributed out.
Well, no, this particular bullet is talking about the listening sessions. It says the listening sessions will be open to anyone who is interested. It's an open meeting. And if someone from the college took notes, which I think was a good idea, I'd like to see copies of them.
I think we're talking about two different things here.
Right.
The listening sessions, they might have should have been
I think
bullets.
we probably need another bullet there to separate out. Linda and Martha will not participate, but Terrence will chair and Donna will help with logistics and take notes.
Because one is about the listening session and one sent.
Right.
The last two
One's about the search
sentences are
committee.
about the search committee.
So that should be a separate bullet.
I see. So in answer to my question, in the listening sessions, nobody took notes and nobody took minutes.
That's correct.
Okay. And with regard to the search committee, nobody took notes, or nobody took minutes, but Donna took notes, but the board can't see those notes.
That's correct.
And why not?
Because those are all confidential.
Confidential to who? We're the board.
The search committee has agreed that their discussions are confidential. And the reason for that is to be able to have the search committee actually be as open in their conversations as possible. And they, in fact, are the ones who oversee this process. So the notes are for them, but they are not for us. We will get the results of their meeting, the results of their meetings when they select the semifinalists, and then when they send us the recommendations for the finalists. That's sort of standard procedure for search committees.
Well, okay. I
understand you don't like that, and
I don't like that because I believe insofar as possible that we should be transparent in this search process.
But this is a private, these are personnel issues. They're not supposed to be public.
Well, then why did we have public listening sessions?
Public listening sessions were about developing the criteria for the president, about getting people's input about what they thought the qualifications should be. They didn't have anything to do with the actual search committee.
Okay. Add a bullet and do whatever you like here. I thought, again, still on page C15, that we had this discussion several years ago about making changes to the minutes prior to them, after they've been prepared, and if any board members have changes, that they would bring them to the board and they would be discussed at the board. Right. I was not at all excited about the fact that we had a page and a half of changes that appeared in the next board packet that no one had seen before. I did discuss it with the president and with Donna and with Trish, and I was told that that the changes were basically a request that pronouns be changed. So I said, okay, well, that doesn't sound like a very big deal. But then I went and underlined all the changes, and that's one heck of a lot of pronouns. And so I think it was more than the pronouns that were changed. And I would make a request and hope that we could keep the general policy that when a board member wants to make changes, that he or she brings them to the board meeting when those minutes are being up for approval and discusses them. One other change on this down here, and I could be right or wrong about this, and this would be the 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be the 6th bullet in the yellow group, we'll call it. About halfway down it says, the thought on the part of the search committee was that the candidates should meet in a neutral place. And I thought from what Martha's discussion was with us and was that was a thought on the part of the search firm.
That's correct.
And that the search committee said they disagreed with that. And so am I correct that the committee should be firm there?
Yes.
Okay.
But on these corrected ones,
It says the same thing.
It says search consultants suggested that.
No, but on this, it says the same thing. It says the thought on the part of the search committee was that the candidates should meet in a neutral place.
You're correct. That should be the search firm.
I assumed that was something. Okay. So then, the last thing in this group of minutes was bringing forward some recommended language that I have for these minutes. Can we pass that down? And this would be on, okay, we got the right one here, C15. This would be after the sentence at the very bottom of page C15 that ends with confidentiality agreement. Then this is my recommended additions to those minutes.
So this is where on page?
On page C15, at the second to last line, this would come after the words confidentiality agreement.
Second to the I'm sorry.
C15.
Vice Chairman,
No, right above that, correct. Right above that. Vice Chair commented that was put in on this second set. That wasn't in the first set. The Vice Chair commented it wasn't necessary or appropriate that the board sign confidentiality agreements. That was put in the second set. That was not in the first set. This is language that I recommend.
And why do you need all this language when your point is members sign that there's a sentence here?
Well, I think there's two important points. One was that the search firm was unresponsive to the board, to board members' requests, and that was discussed at our meeting a month ago. And it was said, well, they have to respond to the committee, but the committee members never responded to the board member either. So I think this was certainly an opinion I had that the board was not being a part of this process, and that I had contacted him simply to obtain a copy of the confidentiality of agreement, which we were told that we were going to have to sign. And I never could get a copy of it. And then later, and it goes on to say that that we discussed that at the meeting, and that Member Romero said that a copy of the agreement is not available because it's a proprietary document, which would be signed on September 7th, which was the date of the special meeting, when the search consultants are on campus. And I add finally that I expressed my concern that members would not have an opportunity to review the document in advance of being asked to sign it. And the response from Member Romero was that it's a standard form, and so we didn't really need to worry about it. And I felt those were important points about this confidentiality agreement that should be in the minutes. So those are my changes, and I would recommend those changes to these minutes.
Second?
Is there any discussion?
So what is the motion?
The motion,
To put this language into the minutes.
plus the other two changes that we
already have those.
We already have those
Well,
changes.
first, we're deciding whether to put these into the minutes, and then we'll decide whether to pass the minutes or not.
So is the motion about this language only?
Yes, the motion is on this language.
Well, let's be sure that's what.
The motion is on this language, is that correct, George?
That's what I understood.
And Kathy has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion? You didn't second it?
No, I didn't make a motion, George seconded the
George?
motion, and I
Oh,
was just asking.
Oh, you didn't make a motion?
No, I was asking for the clarification around what the motion
Okay,
was that we.
is there a motion to put the?
I make a motion to put that language in the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Sounds like 1-1 to me. That's a tie.
I heard everyone say aye, except Martha, and I didn't say anything.
Oh, you heard everyone say aye. Okay, so
Except Martha.
so that's included in the minutes. Okay. Now the other parts.
Motion on the other corrections to the minutes.
And one was, let me just summarize. One was changing management to manage, and one was adding a bullet adding a bullet in the in the fourth bullet, starting with, whoops, no, did I get the right place? No, in the third bullet, starting with Linda and Martha will not participate. And that would be a separate bullet.
That becomes the fourth bullet.
That would become the fourth bullet. And then changing search committee, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in the sixth bullet, which is now the seventh bullet, to search firm.
Consultant.
Or consultant, whichever you like.
Okay, you got all those, Trish? Okay, can we have a motion for those changes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, the next one
See how easy this
is special meeting of September 7th.
Yes. Let me get that one up.
What page is that?
That starts on page no,
17.
C17. Right. Okay. On this one, there have been some changes to the minutes that were in your packet last month. Those are shown in yellow. I had some additional changes that I would recommend, which are not as long as the first ones. The first ones, by the way, didn't identify the consultants who were making the presentation, and so mine identifies them, and this yellowed one, it also identifies them. So I don't have any other changes other than this one recommended, and this would come right after the beginning of paragraph Roman numeral 4.4. And what I say is that Eric Rickmeyer,
What page are we on?
C17, and it's under information items.
Okay.
Okay? And I say, because there was no discussion of it at all, that there was a PowerPoint presentation made that Eric Rickmeyer and Tessa Pollack, representing Academic Search Consulting Firm of Washington, D.C., presented a PowerPoint explanation of the multi-page confidentiality agreement that SFCC Search Committee members will sign, emphasizing that it is necessary to provide confidentiality for candidates who are currently employed, and I guess all candidates. Member Romero reported that it will not be necessary for SFCC board members to sign the agreement.
So you want this?
And the reason, and what's not in either your rewrite or in here, is that the reason that board members would not need to sign the agreement is because we have a confidentiality policy.
Okay, well,
and that should be added.
And I can agree to add that. Would
So
not
are
be.
you talking about replacing this one?
No, we would just.
Yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. I think we would replace the first bullet and just say, Member Romero just said, it reported would not be necessary for members to sign the agreement because, what did you say? There already exists?
Because the board has a confidentiality policy that already exists.
Because the board already has a confidentiality policy. Period. Okay. I'm fine with that.
Oh, okay, on the paragraph that Member Sullivan provided at the very end after agreement, just put, because the board already has a confidentiality policy, period. Got that? Okay.
So with that change in lieu of the first bullet in yellow, I would recommend approval of the special meeting minutes of September 7th, 2018.
Okay, we have a motion to approve
I so move.
these minutes, a second. Any discussion? All those in, yes?
I do have a question on, all the comments that we've added in. So on this comment that we're adding in on the minutes, I would like to know from Member Sullivan kind of what his intention is behind adding all these details, especially things that are negative about our presidential search process.
I think that the only thing I'm adding is I felt, in response to Member Keith's question, that I brought up the issue of the viability of the board signing a confidentiality agreement. And we discussed it at the previous board meeting. Then at the special meeting, it was determined that it wasn't necessary for the board to do that. But in nowhere was that documented. So that what I didn't want is somewhere to say, well, you come back, months from now and say, well, the board didn't sign that confidentiality agreement, and so we have a problem here. So I simply wanted to document somewhere in the special meeting minutes where it was decided that was determined not necessary for the board to have to sign that agreement. So that's the purpose.
Thank you for your explanation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So September 7th is done.
Now we get to Martha's. C-35.
Special meeting, regular meeting, September 26th.
Yeah, I had one on that same page, but I bet ours is the same.
It's September 26th.
What page?
C-35.
35. And we basically need to correct the numbers that are incorrect. Total online costs should be $22.64, and total local and social media costs should be 36. Oh, I didn't write that down. The total local and social media cost should be $57.64.
$57.64. Okay.
Okay, is that the only change?
No, I had one change, Madam Chair.
Where's that?
Just below that, under the Secretary Gamble moved to approve the presidential profile and the advertising budget. Member Keith seconded it. Motion carried 5-0. It carried 4-1. I was opposed to that profile.
Okay.
It had 20 bullets on it. And
Change to 4-1.
if you go to the academic search websites and you look at other college profiles, you'll see that none of them have 20 bullets on them. So I just didn't think that was necessary.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve these minutes?
I move to make those changes.
Second.
With the changes, any more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we've done the minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
may I have a question? I have a question on the minutes.
Yes.
On just the process
Yeah.
of taking the minutes. And I would like to clarify again, because it was brought up early on in this section, that if there needs to be, if an individual board member would like to suggest changes, that those suggestions be made here at the board meeting.
Yeah.
And that there should be no changes made unless they're discussed and agreed upon by the board members.
Agree.
Okay. I just wanted
As long as we're talking about that, I'm wondering, the most efficient way to do things is to deal with the facts that are presented, with the decisions that are made. And so I think we've had this conversation before about, asking the question, board member question. If we just make that statement in response to a board member or something, or even just the information itself, I don't understand why we have to have board member asked if such and such and such and such. And then you give the response. Does that add anything to us besides just extra words?
Well, that's a good point. And in looking at the policy that we have in place that the board members adopted in the handbook, and I know we may be changing the handbook, but nevertheless it's in there. And it does indicate that the minutes should be very succinct and brief and capture the essence and the decisions. Yeah. And if there's a decision that was postponed, to include that. Right. But it would really assist in not having a lot of the comments back and forth in terms of simplifying the minutes and the process and the time and the effort, et cetera.
Exactly, and there's several good reasons for that. If we have a conversation, we have a discussion, and a board member makes a comment, and then that gets recorded as Board Member Board Member Romero's comment, then if there's if in the conversation the board decides to go in a slightly different way, it documents that that board member was opposed to what actually ended up. So it doesn't give us anything that's useful of value, right, to the things, and it just adds words to the minutes. I mean, I think the minutes should be as succinct as possible, and they should be limited to, there was a discussion held, maybe these were the main points of the discussion, and this was the decision that was made.
Well, I disagree with that. I think, and I have no problem with not identifying who. And most of our board minutes, this recent amendment put names in, said Martha and Linda and so forth, and before it was generic, and I had nothing to do with that. So I don't have any problem with it just saying, board question such and such, such and such. But I do believe if there are counter opinions, that they deserve to be in the minutes. They deserve to be there. Now, we generally agree on 95% of things that come to this board, but it's just like the Supreme Court has dissenting opinions. Doesn't mean that the Supreme Court doesn't what they rule on doesn't become law. But I think just sanitizing the minutes and saying everything is kumbaya and nobody disagreed with anything is probably not succinct or representative of the.
That's not what I said.
Of the discussion.
What I said, and I think what Cecilia was also saying, was you say this is the discussion that transpired. And you say pros, or you say cons, or you say whatever the conversation was about, and then you say, and this is the decision that was reached. But you don't go into great detail about a whole range of comments that ultimately have nothing to do with the decision.
Well, I can agree with that. I can say that I can agree, Madam Chair, that as long as the pros and cons are in there, and my concern has been that the minutes haven't reflected that. If there is a difference of opinion among board members, and usually, certainly I think all the board members try to be respectful when we have those differences of opinion, but we do occasionally have differences of opinion, and board and minutes are supposed to reflect what happened. The alternative is to take verbatim minutes, and I'm sure nobody wants to do that.
Yeah. And Trish is still fairly new to this process, so I want to give her as much guidance as we can in order for her to feel like she's doing her job as a professional. And the other thing I was going to add, Member Sullivan, is that in this handbook it also says that a member voting against a motion may, upon request at the time of voting, state his or her reasons and have them recorded in the minutes. Yeah.
Yes, and I've done that, and it's not recorded. So that's one of my concerns.
Follow the handbook, because
we'll follow the handbook. And
the other thing I want to add is that I have worked with Todd Lovato and Jeremy Lovato regarding more clear location of the recordings of these sessions, so that they can be, because we have everything recorded and anyone can go back and review them if they so choose. The other thing that I asked for is a simpler and more clear way to access the agenda and the minutes. And so they're going to show up more prominently in the board website so that it's easier for the public or for each of us to access it and be transparent as possible. I think that's important.
And I think that's important too. And I've, on that 4-1 vote, I said, I'm pretty sure I voted against that.
I remember.
And I went onto the website and I listened to the tape. And it was all the way at the end of a 3-hour and 27-minute tape. And sure enough, I voted against it.
You can speed those tapes up.
Yeah, well, I did. I ran it. I didn't listen to all 3 hours and 27 minutes, but and that is very useful. And getting it timely onto the website is very important. In the same way with the agendas, and what's also good, and let's make compliments where compliments are due here. When the college publishes an agenda, all of the backup material, you can click on that.
Yes.
You can click on that, and you will get the backup documents. Yes. And that is super helpful, I think, not only to me as a board member, but to the public to be able to do that. So, kudos on that policy. It's a good one.
On that point, though, I would say that we don't have to, I think it's fine to edit the comments so that they are, sometimes we go on and on and on and on and on, and not every comment needs to be presented verbatim. I mean, I think we need to have enough trust that a summary can be made that is as succinct as possible and that doesn't do word for word discussion of, and quite frankly, when we're talking, our statements are sometimes a little bit disjointed, a little bit wordy, a little bit repetitive, and we don't need to do that. We don't need to reflect that in the minutes.
Okay, and so we're all going to do any minute discussion in the board meeting, and I would also like to request that we not go to our staff and talk to them about changing anything, that we do it in our board member, and that anytime somebody wants to talk to staff, they need to talk to our president and go through our president.
Please.
Okay. All right, let's move to
Financial.
the approval of the financial report. And you're going to hit the highlights?
Yes.
As you discussed this yesterday at the Finance Committee?
We did, Madam Chair, President Cervantes, board members. We did discuss this in detail yesterday at the Board Finance Committee meeting as well as the Financial Oversight Committee on Monday. So the highlights I just would like to mention here are the fact that in our cash account for our operating bank account, we had a total of $5.1 million at the end of September. And these financial reports are, of course, for the month ended September 2018. And again, we had $5.1 million at the end of September. And that's a $1.6 million increase from the prior year. That's really good. That's a really good indicator of increasing cash balances. Tuition and fees, however, are down 7%, and it's a total of about $280,000 of a decrease when you compare it to the prior year. Local appropriations revenue is just down by $7,000 compared to last year at $183,000. State appropriations are up 9%. From increased legislative appropriations, and they total to be $2.6 million, and they are up $210,000. So in total, all of our revenues at the end of September decreased by about $95,000 compared to the prior year, and so that's essentially fair to say that's fairly flat. ING expenses are down by $231,000. And that's 3%, and total to be $7.6 million. If you look at ING compensation, that is down by 5% and by about an amount of $319,000 compared to last year. And we took a look at the Public Service Fund, and it has a positive net income at the end of September of about $84,000. Our auxiliaries, so that's food service and bookstore, they have a net gain of about $16,000. If you look at the plant fund, our reserves in the plant fund are remaining consistent at 1.6 million. And we also did review the grant outstanding accounts receivable, and that's actually fairly low, relatively speaking, compared to the way that we report grant receivables. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
I think you gave us a pretty good responses to our questions at the work session.
Yes, thank you for all the questions. And again, as I discussed yesterday, I think that the financials are looking better than we've seen in the past. However, that tuition and fee, as we discussed with the decrease in credit hour, it's something to keep an eye on. I know that we're making progress in terms of trying to address that, trying to encourage more students to enroll here at the college. And I think that some of these things will be very beneficial in that area. But again, at the end of September, we had about $280,000 in a decrease, and we should be looking towards that sort of trend happening in the upcoming semester as well.
That's tuition decline.
That's correct. Yeah.
I move approval of the financial reports.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Automotive Center? Design contract.
Dr. Cervantes is the only one who has legible signatures.
That's because when I was in first grade, I got an F in penmanship, so I tried ever since.
Well, these guys
Yeah,
must
the
have gotten
nuns.
good grades because
Always remember Sister and Michelle.
Well, thank you all this evening for allowing us
Mary
to
Mayonnaise.
present before you the Automotive Technology Center architectural contract. We covered a lot of the questions in the work session, and this is a very exciting project for us. This was part of the local general obligation bond funding source. This is approximately a $600,000 design project in coordination with a future construction project for a total project cost of approximately $7 million. We ask that you all approve this architectural contract so we can begin the design process and move forward with the Automotive Technology Center project. With that, we stand for questions.
Okay. Questions?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I just think it'd be useful to be sure that people know that the staff is recommending a construction manager at risk type contract for this undertaking as opposed to a traditional design bid build. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but I just think I want to be sure that we have that documented.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Solomon and Chairman Siegel and members of the board. Yes, that's correct. We're advocating for our consultants, our architects, to give us some ideas, and they have recommended a construction manager at risk process, because the construction manager at risk process really takes the construction and the schedule into account. So that's a process that would fit our project more suitable, because we do have a time constraint that we're trying to meet on that schedule, and that is with regards to classes for January of 2020. Yeah, and as Nick, our Vice President of Finance, mentioned, we have a lot of experience with construction manager at risk projects. We've just completed one, the Higher Education Center. We completed that project under budget and under schedule. So we do have experience with this type of project. There are some advantages to this type of project, and there are some risks. And the risks are that the contractor bids this project knowing the bids, the contingencies, and allowances. So they can't make changes once they bid. We accept those bids with a gross maximum price, and that's the price that the contractor builds that project. If he over exceeds that price, that's on his nickel.
So what's the risk to us?
The risk to us is the price is going to be a little higher because he's going to consider contingency and allowances for his bids, because he may make an error and he wants to be able to allow for that. So the price may be a little higher, but we're going to get a solid price and a solid schedule.
But this is the,
Design.
And this is the architectural, this is the architect. I'm just discussing the construction manager, which is in the future.
Yep.
And the other advantages of the construction manager at risk is they come in at about 60% of the design. So they're aware of this design before it's completed. Their input is in this design before it's completed. So that's an advantage for
how
these.
does that happen?
They're invited to review the drawings before about 60% completion, and the actual architect will start the CMR contract at about that time. We'll have a contract with the contractor before the architectural design is complete. So they can make changes to those drawings, because when those drawings are complete and they bid it, there's no changes to the price. They have to pay, they have to bill it for that price.
But it is, Madam Chair, it is a part of this contract because there's no provisions in this contract for construction phase services for construction inspection and so forth, which you would normally have in the architect's contract. That is now moved over to the construction manager, which hasn't been selected yet.
No, but they're recommending that.
Yeah, so this is a different type of AIA contract. So it does, I just want to be sure the board and the public understands that this is a different mechanism.
So this is, we didn't bid this out. We didn't do we did an RFP? No, we didn't. We used that mechanism.
But we received.
Yeah, this is a cooperative. This is a cooperative education service, so we use those same contracts that already have fixed prices.
Right.
But we did receive different bids.
Different
That's
proposals.
Proposals,
correct,
I'm sorry,
Madam Chair,
proposals.
President Cervantes, board members, we did bring in several vendors and did a variation of a bid, and they presented to the evaluation team. And they were, of course, scored and things like that. One of the primary scoring criteria was the fact that they had to have experience building an automotive center before, and that's sort of a rare.
Designing an automotive center?
Designing, that's correct.
And they'll actually act as our construction consultant as well during the construction process.
Madam Chair? For the record, I just want to note that this is an Albuquerque firm. Were there any local firms that applied?
There were no local firms that applied for the bids.
Thank you.
They haven't built automotive centers?
No. No.
So is this an architect that's built higher ed automotive centers, or just like built Toyota's automotive center?
Both. They've built higher ed automotive and aviation centers, and they've built commercial automotive retail centers as well.
They also built this campus.
And they also built this campus.
Oh, this is that.
They built this campus, they designed this campus in 1983. Greer and Stafford designed the campus in 1983. So they're familiar with our architectural style.
They better be.
Okay, is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, the information items. Okay, matters related to policy. So we had the first reading of this And we discussed 3-3 and 3-4, so we should put those on the agenda for the December meeting.
For approval.
For approval, for final reading.
Right, for final reading.
Now, we discussed, we didn't discuss any of the other, we didn't discuss 10.1, 1-28, 1-29, and 1-31.
1-27 we did.
We did.
Yes, we did that one, but we didn't do
Discussed
1-28.
1.27.
No.
Do we?
Can we do 10-1, please?
Yes, okay, let's do 10-1.
Great.
Right, this is.
This is the one on collaboration and, okay, that
And that
is
is on G.
GG.
Very near the end.
Okay, has anybody found it yet?
Yeah, it's on G37,
G37, okay.
under the G, number 37.
Okay. So this is a new policy, and this is a policy which addresses the fact that that our campus is very popular by the community to use it and to have events here. We have tried our best to screen those events and ensure that they support our mission, support our vision, but the numbers have gotten so great that it's put a burden on our POM staff, and sometimes we even have challenges scheduling our own events here at the college. So we felt that we needed some help and that this policy would help guide the well, first of all, how we lease college-owned property, and also just help to support the college so that we can indeed utilize the college facilities as they're meant to be utilized by instruction, but still have some have an opening for the community to use the facilities.
So this is really about the free or the really
Reduced
use of the room. Now,
That's
so
correct.
this isn't about the people that we actually
No.
rent to
No.
because they're having a big event and we
No.
provide all the food. And
No.
this has nothing to do with it.
Nothing, no.
Well, Madam Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Stefanis, doesn't this also, though, have to do with the Higher Education Center?
Yes, because it's a college facility. And it has to do with all college facilities, including property.
And that was one of the things I know that was in the presentation that we didn't have time for tonight, that some of these policies were going to be wrapped into this new 10-1.
Yes, and this policy has.
I looked at your PowerPoint.
Has been reviewed by the executive team and by the faculty senate subcommittee on policies. We spent time with them, and anybody else?
Staff Senate.
Oh, and staff senate has reviewed it also. So they've all had input.
Wow.
I guess the one question I would raise is why would there be a separate policy for the paid use of space versus the free or reduced cost of space? In part, I ask that question in the sense of there still needs to be the entire process of trying to find out, is space available? Is it available at that time? Is there staff available? Whether or not someone's paying for it or not would seem to me certainly it's a question at some point, but it just seems like the policy for going through, for example, the people that it goes through, who would determine, gee, do we have any space on that day of the week? It seems like there would be one person or one office that would be in charge of determining that question, whether or not the space was going to be paid for or not. So that's the only question I have about the policy.
So what we have found is that, we have a lot of partners around the city, at the schools and other community agencies, and they usually know someone at the college that they approach in terms of wanting to see if we could let them use the space free of charge. So that's what we want, so that that individual, usually a member of the executive team, can shepherd, you might say, the request through all the different stages that it needs to go through, including going through conference services, because that's probably the first place we need to start to see. Yes, in order to see whether the space is available. And we recently had a request come in. And the Hemis room, I think we found a date when they were available, but the entity also wanted to use 11 classrooms, and this happens to be when we're in the middle of classes, so we couldn't. We had to say no, because we just, we have classes going on, and we couldn't allow them to use the space. So there's that extra look and assessment, to determine if it's appropriate based on our schedule of supporting our educational mission, et cetera. And I don't know if you want to add any more, Laura, to that.
I think the conflicts, Madam Chair, Madam President, members of the board, I think the conflicts became, and Todd can weigh in here too, the conflicts became onerous. And so the considerations were not made for, not only is the room available, but can OIT handle it? Can custodial handle it? Everybody in Palm. And it became that things were getting approved without going through all of those channels. Yes. And people were giving away space without understanding that it actually costs the college. And the criteria wasn't set up, nor was the process for approving it set up. And so because the president thought this was important and impacts our budget as well as our employees and our students, it seemed important to bring it to this level. Todd?
Thank you, Laura. That was really good. I'll just add that to try to really answer your question directly, we do have oversight of an internal events, if they're external nonprofit, external private, and certain in rates that we would charge them, or so. But this is a unique animal in the sense that Fran and Ben in conference services, there are just some circumstances where it may be above their ability to say, okay, I give the approval to this event. And so it just takes that kind of, this is just an exceptional circumstance beyond the kind of just the workaday managing of people who want to use our space. And
I guess I don't quite follow that. Yeah. I guess I'm still thinking that a single process, if there is a request that would go to one place, if the request had some special circumstances, we were going to have some notable figure available, and therefore there should be given high priority, that presumably could be indicated on whatever application was. Please check with President Cervantes before doing this. I just find the splitting of this a little complicated.
Well, a good example would have been the Obama event that was held here. That was a huge event, and it taxed every single thing on the campus.
Didn't we get paid?
I don't know.
Anybody know? Yes, we did. Yeah.
I don't believe so. I think it was a public service. So that's one of my questions, is I don't object to the policy, but I think we need to be really careful that we are not seen as denying community groups that come out here and they get to know the college when they come out here, and they get to appreciate the college even more. So I think we have to be really sensitive to the fact that we don't want to in any way imply that that we're not welcoming. or that we're a private sort of institution and only certain folks.
I think that's absolutely true. And, you know, I'm supporting the idea of a policy. The thing that I'm concerned about is the bifurcation. We have one thing over here that's not very clear and the other one's clear. You know, I think that if someone approaches me and says, hey, George, can we use some space out there? I think ideally I know a place where I can say, you know, is space available for this kind of event on this date? And someone can tell me, and I can tell my friend that, okay, you have to apply. They tell me the space is available, but you go to so-and-so and apply. That's
If
all.
I may, I'll let Todd respond to that. I just wanted to add a little context to Dr. Romero's concern about the public, and that is that word is out there that we're free. So people who might go elsewhere in town have learned that, oh, just go out to the community college. So we do everything. We give everything away for those partners that we've developed over the years, but word has spread. And so it became so busy and difficult for staff to manage. We had to figure out a way that, whoa, it's costly to the college. Is it aligned with our mission? Is it supporting our students? And is there a conflict?
Our community.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I feel pretty strongly about this too. And I guess the first thing I'll say about this policy is when I read it, I was taken aback because it feels like to me when I read it that we've forgotten that our taxpayers pay for these facilities. They do not belong to us, nor do they tax us. They pay our salaries. So I think when we're using this institution for the public good, that I'd love to see us come at this policy from a different direction, saying these are the public goods that this facility serves, and I get that our students come first, but we also need to very clearly identify those other areas that are public goods so we can say to people when they approach us, these are the kinds of events we support. I think this leaves it really nebulous, and I think we need to be able to say that to the public. You have invested your tax dollars here. We recognize that. We want to accommodate the groups that we can that are serving the public good, not for private, but that are serving the public good. These are the areas that the college has prioritized for use of our facilities. And I also think that it's reasonable if we have some nominal amount that we need to charge a group to meet their needs, that we would put that in policy too. You know, looking at that. Especially the one that I really don't care for is all requests for collaborative use from external entities must be initiated by a college employee, which kind of makes me feel like, hey, if you know somebody out there, we'll do a favor for you. We are a public facility. I think everyone who wants to come and ask should be able to come and ask, and we have a responsibility to say these are the organizations that we're prioritizing to use the facilities if they're not being used for the intention that the public set, you know, for our students, right, which is really what the public has paid for these facilities for. But if they're available at other times, we want to make sure that they're utilized. I mean, I think it's one of the things that the state legislature has talked about, or the LESC, about the utilization of our facilities. Since our taxpayers, both at the local and state level, are paying for these facilities, they're looking at the fact if they're used or not.
I have a specific question on the liability. Is this liability clause about it's on page G39, that everybody who comes out here must have a $1 million policy? Is that something we require of anybody who pays for?
Yes.
That's standard from external.
And have we required this before with all of the people who come here? So anybody who comes here, you tell them you gotta drop down a couple $100 on a $1 million liability policy for one day?
Madam Chair, particularly for our vendors, it's always standard in our contracts to include that language.
Vendors,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's because our insurance, NIMSIA, requires us to do that under state law. And so when we work with the vendors, that's very common. So if you have people on campus, you would potentially want to have that same kind of liability protection as well.
But have we been asking every single person who comes out here?
So if we have a nonprofit, a small, let's say a nonprofit that, let's say Habitat wants to have a meeting here, and we say you need $1 million liability insurance policy before we can, I mean, I know because I have to buy liability insurance. It's about $400 or $500 for an individual, let alone for an organization. So it's a huge expense for them to come and then pay money to be here. I would think that our insurance policy would cover some of that if they're approved to be here. Well, if we, as Kathy's saying, if we're community service, we are a community service organization, then it seems to me that we need to be a whole lot more friendly about that.
Madam Chair, it is a difficult balancing act, absolutely, because I think that we all definitely want to have open doors to the community. However, there are some compliance things that are issues with having private entities coming on campus potentially. And I would just like to communicate to the board that there is the anti-donation clause in the Constitution and other statutes where you cannot allow basically a private entity to receive something free from the state institution. So that also really does kind of complicate things. And so there's ways to address that, but we do have to have a coordinative kind of system in terms of people coming on campus and knowing who they might be and what they're going to be using, and if what they're doing benefits the college. That's the main thing, is if we have a private nonprofit coming on campus, whatever they do here, if we waive the fee, we have to make sure that it's benefiting the institution somehow.
But nonprofits are not private. I mean, there's a distinction between a nonprofit and a private.
It's it would be considered a private entity.
Really?
And we can do government to government. So say the public schools come to campus, we can waive that. We can waive any other state, really, institution, city, state, local government. Those are all essentially exempt in terms of some of the rules. So.
Well, you can do quid pro quos if, like, you have a nonprofit that's talking about suicide prevention and it's open to the public and our people can go or students can go, things like that. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say a couple of things going back to Member Gamble's question. So we do have conference services on the main campus, and they're prominent on the website. And if you're any individual, internal, external, private, corporate, nonprofit, profit, you know to go to conference services. There are staff members. Those are the staff members that have been alluded to, Fran Naraki, Ben Lauer. They are the first step for most people because that's who most people know. At the higher education center, it's myself or the office administrator. Again, highly prominent on the website so that we're able to identify that. That's where that process begins. At that point, they're both, and we share, if you look at the contract that Conference Services has for main campus, it mirrors what we have for the higher education center because we use the same things. That's where the process starts. That's where we're identifying what kind of group. And then that's also where they can say, we'd actually like this to be for free if possible. Can we co-sponsor this? Can we do a collaborative use of space? as Nick alluded to, and as I think we're trying, the discussions regarding the policy have been, is we are asking those questions. And you've heard me regarding the Higher Education Center allude to the fact that its mission, of course, one of its missions was to be that community resource. So we're asking those questions. Are you a partner? Are you an entity like Santa Fe Public Schools? I can tell you, and of course we've had to work on that report, but the Santa Fe Public Schools, they don't pay if as long as we know there isn't something special. Now, where we have seen some special things come in, so for example, Board Member Keith, Rising Stars in the Southwest is a nonprofit. It works with students. They're a partner of ours. They do a lot of things with K through 12. They had classrooms on a particular Saturday. We worked with them. It was great, but they also wanted to have an evening event. Typically, the Higher Education Center is not open on Saturdays after 5. So in that case, we did have to talk to them about helping us pay for the security, the additional custodial, and a little bit of that rental price, because technically that building isn't even open. And of course we had to think about having staff, but we waived staff. We didn't ask them to pay for the staff. But those were the kind of things in conjunction with the president and asking the kind of questions that are in the criteria. Is this the right way to do this? Because we understand it is a public space. This was a hard conversation, and I can only speak personally for me. It is a bit of a shift, because as Laura has mentioned, and these were hard conversations regarding balancing that need to serve our community and serve our partners and really be available and not turn down opportunities to be visible and helpful and a community resource, because that's obviously always what we want to be. But we did have to be mindful, particularly of, and again, I'll just use custodial staff as an example, both at the HEC, where we only have 2, one in the day, one in the evening, not only Monday through Friday, and here on this campus, only Monday through Friday. So Saturday events do they do cause a question. And so I think that's where the conversation for this policy came forward, and then therefore President Cervantes, brought it forward. But it's a first read, of course, and these were hard conversations.
And Madam Chair, I would love to see us prioritize education. I think that's really important, and it's a public good that we serve and we can serve. But then to also open the policy up to say following our areas that we will consider as well, just so groups know what the parameters are, and we use a policy to define that. If there are additional costs for after hours or security, that we need those. But what I hope we're not closing the door to is events that we have hosted that I think are really good for this college. So we have science fairs here. And we have young people and their families come here and see this as an educational institution, and that's a community good that I think we're serving. And sometimes those are nonprofit organizations and sometimes those are schools, but I would hate for us to say, no, it's too much work, we're no longer going to do those kinds of events that bring families and community members onto our campus and show them the resources that we have and let them utilize the resources that they've paid for as taxpayers.
Thank you. And just before Jenny, I pass the mic over, I just mentioned that the college hosts, outside of our typical, just the classroom activity, we host about 1,000 events a year. If you include student activities, clubs, all the nonprofits, the meetings, the private events. So what this is a response and a discussion about that nothing is free. If people were coming in and just using a vacant space, there would even be costs associated with that. But oftentimes with these events, regardless of the value, there is demand on plant, on OIT, because these on everything from setting tables, huffing tables around, to setting up speakers and audio-visual equipment, that can be really burdensome, particularly in the context of the fact that we do host about 3 events a day that fall into this. So I agree that we can really scrutinize the language we're using to make this as inviting as possible. But I think through this conversation that we've had as an institution, we're just the strain
Your mic went out.
I agree.
When the batteries were out. Time to go.
So I don't want it to feel like there's a mischaracterization of our mission and satisfying these goals, but there is, I believe, a limit, and to a point where we can have a conversation about, is there such thing as a free lunch? And what are the costs to our staff and to our people? And can we create some process around this that is, yes, friendly, delicate to our public relations, which is dear to us, delicate to events that have high value, but also have a frank conversation about the how we are spending taxpayer dollars in the soft costs, in human and labor and opportunity that we could be using, because it's just, so it's a good conversation. It's a very good question. Thank you.
So I would love to see that data as we move forward on this policy. So not student events, because that's what we're here to do, right? So not anything affiliated with the college that is either student or faculty related, not anything that private entities are paying for in order to use our space because we're being compensated for that, but just the events that we do that are community-based events. And how many of those do we do a year? And how many people does it bring to campus? Because I think that's an impact too.
Can you just give me an example of what you've done? I mean, what happened last week? Or a week ago, or 2 weeks ago?
Madam Chair, President Cervantes, members of the board, I actually want to give you some context. Okay. So I think this is really, and I think you're bringing up some really excellent points, and then maybe we need to change some of the language. But really how we came to this place, we're not so much about the folks that were coming and asking the conference center for space that they were going to pay for. But it was really our community partners that wanted to come on campus. And there were a couple of things that were happening at the same time. Personally, what I found was that there were events that either faculty or somebody associated with the college would bypass folks involved. And I'll give you a perfect example. An adjunct faculty actually went to Fran and said, I'm going to have a STEM event, and I don't remember what it was. And then people said to me, oh, you're holding a STEM event. So part of it, a big part of it, is just communication, because we would have loved to have supported that. But that adjunct didn't tell anybody, and he did it all on his own. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it came back to me. Fran was like, oh, this is yours. You're all over this calendar. But half of those events were not mine in terms of STEM or healthcare, but they were outside entities somehow either associated with the college. So we really wanted it to be about collaboration and communication. And I will say, like the event that happened last week with STEM Santa Fe, I mean, they are getting ready to plan what's it called? The Julia Robertson Mathematics Festival in the spring. And we're working with them on that. Santa Fe Public Schools is working with us on trying to do their district-wide science fair. So I don't see that we want to turn any of our partners away or turn away potentially new partners in the community. But for those of us in the academic field, we just want there to be a better collaboration and knowledge of knowing how we can support our community members when they come to us and ask for space.
But what you're asking for is internal communication, and that's obviously what isn't there. I don't think we need to go on and on. I think you've heard a lot about where we are. But in terms of this particular policy, you have a definition for non-collaborative users. Nowhere in the policy did I find the language non-collaborative users. So why are we defining them? You talk about partnership as an understanding between the college and another entity that establishes contractual obligations and is mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial, I understand. Do we need to define contractual obligations? What actually constitutes a contract? Do we have to have a written contract with them? Do we, what is the term for a written contract? And so I think we need a better definition for partnership. I think if we're going to use the term contractual obligations, I think we need to do that. And I don't understand why non-collaborative users is in there. So if And maybe that's part of the language that I found offensive, was that, okay, so non-collaborative users, are we non-collaborative? Where does that fit? Anyway, I think this policy needs some work.
And I think on George's point, I think I'm confused. It's like there's two ways to get a space here. And one way is you go to the convention center people, to Fran, and go, I want to rent this space. And then this other way is like, well, I'll just talk to somebody and get it. And I think this still sort of is that I'll just talk to somebody and get it. I mean, why don't we have a process? And you can have a little turn on the process if it's one requesting it for a lower rate because they're whatever reason. But yeah, I think the process needs. I want to say I hear what you're saying about it's too much work, it's overwhelming, that all the things that you have to do for so many different groups. Okay, then maybe we need to limit the number or something. Yeah. Or the days.
Or streamline the process. I mean, again, it seems like there are these two processes, and it says in here, talks about executive team members being involved. Why are executive team members involved? I don't see any reason why an executive team member is involved. That sounds a little like, oh, you know me, won't you do this deal for me?
Well, that's how it's happening. Yeah, but that's not the reason. When there is a date that is already a time of the year in which we have classes scheduled or other events going on, then we want to bring it and communicate to see, can we still make this work? And can we still, allow this entity to come in? But I do appreciate the input and the perspectives, and I agree that we need some work. And I really liked Member Keith in terms of identifying and supporting the public. That's important, and prioritizing the areas of use. I think we hear you, and we can improve the policy so that it communicates that we are open to our community and that we do belong. After all, we're a community college. So.
And I would also add that the business about cost, maybe people do perceive us as being free, but we don't have to be free. There can be nominal costs. As so happens, for example, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, they have 2 rooms that they let people use. They have a standard fee. They just have a set fee for setting up, for cleaning up. They have a fee. We can do the same thing.
And it's $35, but, right?
It's 50.
And it's a community collaboration space, right?
Okay, I think you've heard us.
Yes.
Bring us back something else.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I do want to say that, and I guess specifically for Laura, because we've been working in what I call our wordsmithing committee. On G39, what's confusing to me is it says the primary purpose of SFCC property is to support the educational mission of the college. As a community service, the college may allow facilities to be available for other uses through lease approved by the Conference Services Office, the Higher Education Center, or through collaborative use. And then we get back to Member Romero's comment about, we have collaborative use and we have non-collaborative use, but we really don't say, if I'm a non-collaborative use, where do I go? This is all, I'm a collaborative use. But say I'm a non-collaborative uses, we have those too. These are people who use the college facilities from outside the college for events not related to the college's educational mission. Those are according to your definitions. So maybe we don't bother with collaborative use and non-collaborative use. Maybe we just say use, And if you want to use a facility, we'll determine it. And by the way, you have to have procedures because it refers to procedures here. And here's where you go. Do you go to conference services or do you go to HEC? Suppose you want to rent the HCC. Do you go to conference services or do you go to HEC? Which one? HEC. Doesn't say that. Doesn't say that.
It does say.
Well, it says,
go to one of them.
because one or the other, I pick the third one, which is collaborative use, because that one's kind of unclear. So those terms, I think, are also contributing to the problem that I hear the board expressing. So, I think this needs to be worked on a bit.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. All right, do we have any board reports, discussions, other business? What? Oh, the others. We're not gonna do them.
No,
Which one?
the rest of them.
1A, 28, 29, 30.
Wait, if you can, we kind of need 1-31.
What is?
That's a long one.
Started it.
We started it, yeah.
No, we
Well, we can do it,
It's
but
almost 10 o'clock.
we're not gonna have a coherent conversation if we have it now.
It's just one section of it.
no, it's not.
It's a big section.
You know, you can bring it to final reading and then we'll chew it up there and you'll have to bring it back, but that's fine.
It's the first reading?
This is the
first reading.
The first reading.
If you bring it back, then we'll discuss it at the final reading and we'll change it or not.
Well, I think we need to think about that, Madam Chair, because,
We do
and
that
I don't want
all the time.
I don't want to stay, until midnight, but one of the discussions that we've had in our committee of two, and we had a little bit at our last work session on this, was how the Finance Committee functions. And should the Finance Committee be a committee that's appointed by the chair? Should the Finance Committee be a committee of the whole? And there's reasons for that, which I understand. And should we put into a policy, should we require the chair to name a specific committee? Because
Are we talking about the board finance committee?
yes.
Okay.
So should we have a policy that says the chair must appoint, or there's a board finance committee, when, for example, our handbook says the chair appoints committees.
Point of order.
Well,
Is there an urgency for having this approved right now?
What is the urgency?
What is the,
It's just a section of the policy. It talks about for the audit report to be submitted to the board before it goes to the state offices. And that's technically very, very difficult because a lot of times the audit report's finalized literally a day before it gets submitted to the state auditor's office. That's it. So we would just really need to take that out.
but if there's no urgency, can we put it off?
I don't have a problem putting it off.
Yeah.
I would just ask the board to think about one thing. If finances is important to the board, which based on our past experience it is, and we need to spend time on it, I think finance committee meetings should be done away with, and they should be board meetings. And they should be board meetings, and the agenda should be finance, the finance reports. And those board meetings should be televised. Those board meetings should be made available. And I know the meetings of the Finance Committee are open meetings, and anybody can come, but they're during the day, when people have other things to do. And I think it's particularly important to think about this with the advent of the faculty union, where the more financial information we can make them aware of, the smoother that, I think, process is going to move forward and is going to take place. So just give some thought to the fact that if we have a board meeting on finance, we call it a board meeting on finance, all the board members are there. And by the way, the new President's Conference Room is now wired for sound and security. So we could televise it there if we wanted to. I just want you to think about that, because that's part of this policy where it says, there must be a finance committee and it must be everybody. But I'm thinking, let's think about that.
Okay.
And should we just have board meetings which are devoted to finance.
And we'll talk about that.
Just for clarification, is this coming for first or second reading? I'm confused. First reading, thank you.
Okay. We have a board retreat, October 26th, 9 o'clock here in the President's Conference Room, 9 to 4. And our next board meeting is a joint meeting with the foundation on December 4th. We'll have our joint meeting first, and then we'll have a regular board meeting.
So Linda, do you want an update, quick update?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, yes, on the board report.
So under the board reports, just a very quick update. We have been notified by Academic Search that Tessa Martinez-Pollock is very ill. She's been diagnosed with a couple of very serious diseases, and so she will not be able to continue with the search. But they have assigned another very competent consultant to work with Eric. So I just want you all to know that. That's where we are.
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bye.
Bye.